I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. April 9, Community Development and Housing Grants Commission. Could I get a roll call, please?
Tina Paskey. Here.
Shute.
Here.
Reining. Pietroroso. Adamson.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Grammer.
Here.
Drathorn.
Here.
Hausman.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Von Bergen.
Here. Could I get a motion to let Mr. Smith into the meeting, please?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Moore, second by Mr. Hausman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you.
Don't have any minutes for approval. Is there any public comment? Okay, so we'll move on to new business. And we've got staff presentation again. I'm not sure if you should explain
How we're gonna kind of do the deliberation?
yes, and kind of what we have to work with, just so it's in
Sure.
the official part of the meeting.
Perfect, yeah.
Sorry.
No,
Take you
not
back.
at all. Happy to do my Van Ovide again?
Yeah, exactly.
Hang on 1 second. Share it.
All right, so this is just our CDBG projects that were requested. So I color coded everything based on what project type they are. So you'll see that on your spreadsheet as well. The bottom portion is pulling the $280,000, which is 20% of the grant for administration. And then the rest of the projects is how much they've requested combined as a category. The total request from all of the CDBG projects is about $3.6 million. We're anticipating, oh, sorry, Sarah, can you just minimize Larry real quick? Yeah, thank you. We're anticipating that the CDBG award from HUD will be $1.4 million this year. We have a $210,000 public service cap. We can only allocate 15% of the total grant award amongst the purple projects. And so this kind of bar will keep zeroing out as we continue to allocate to all the projects. So we'll be mindful of this as we make our allocations throughout the spreadsheet. And so the one that I printed off for you guys is just pretty much all of this. I didn't print out this for the bottom part. And then you'll see that you'll have a side all the way to the right that you can make your recommendation for how much you want to allocate towards that project. And so we'll probably start with home because it's a lot easier with the 3 projects. We're anticipating that we're going to receive $600,000 from HUD for home. We've requested 10% of the grant for administration. CDBG is 20, home is 10% that we can request for staff. So that's $60,000. So that brings us down to $540,000 that we can allocate towards these 3 projects. 2 of them are at $600,000, and then we have New Directions at a $206,000 request. And then we have about $1.4 million being requested total from these 3 projects. And so what we'll do, HUD has asked us, because we do have a large portfolio with all the projects, especially the CDBG ones. There's about 30 projects just in the CDBG section. So HUD has really asked us to kind of shrink the portfolio and fully fund as many projects as we can. That's going to make a greater impact on our reporting to HUD. And then they also like to see the money moving much quickly throughout the year. So they've asked us for that's their guidance, is to fully fund as many projects as we can. And then we can always see what's left over with the remaining funding. So like I said, we'll probably start with home. It'll be a lot easier to allocate, and then we'll go right into CDBG. And I think that's that. Any questions on this?
So, yeah, sorry, the administrative part of it, so that's for in-house?
That's for us, salaries and stuff.
And that's true of both?
Mm-hmm.
So why the 10% here and the 20% on the other part?
Great question. That's just a HUD regulation that they only allow 10% from the home grant to be used for administration purposes and then 20% for CDBG. mostly because I think the allocation is so much varying for the CDBG projects. They can do so much more. Home is much more truncated, but you've heard a few presenters say that they really like CDBG because it's so flexible. Home is
Right.
definitely not. But it is your affordable housing and kind of home ownership grant that directly comes from HUD. So I think it's because the allocation is so much less than CDBG that they don't allow a bigger portion of the grant to go towards administration.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about what the administrative part of that looks like? From
Sure.
a practical day-to-day
Yeah.
sort of standpoint?
So we will, come October 1, we will take the recommendations from this commission, go to county board, get finally approved at county board, and then we set up our grant agreements starting on October 1 to go to September 30th. Usually for CDBG projects, we give them that full year to go out. We can always extend projects if need be. Usually for home, we give the projects 2 years. If it's tenant-based rental assistance, if they're developing something, if it's a home ownership project, usually home is a little bit of a longer process. So
Sure.
our agreements are always usually about 2 years. Throughout that time, we ask them, the projects, to submit quarterly reports. So they say, this is what we spent, this quarter allocation on, this is how many people were assisted. If it's a home ownership project or usually like a habitat project or something like that, usually we get a lot of zeros, and then at the very end, we get whoever has moved into the unit or something like that at the very end. So we do get quarterly reports to see how the funding is being spent throughout the year. There's a total of 4, of course. And then at the very end of the year, we report all the accomplishments to HUD, and that's what's considered our CAPER, our Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, which kind of matches our consolidated plan, which is our 5-year plan. And then, hopefully not to make it more confusing, out of the 5-year plan, then we do annual action plans, which is a 1 year for each year, which then tells HUD, this is what we allocated this year. So these will be the projects that will be reported on for the 2025 plan. And then at the end of the year, we'll see what the outcomes were, how many people were assisted totally out of this kind of pot for allocations, how many homes were built, how many homes were rehabbed, things like that. And so that all goes to HUD.
Gotcha.
And we have in the past had groups come back in and kind of give us a recap once their project is finished. And that's nice to see, how it went for them, the process, and what they did with the money. So
Yeah.
sometimes that's done at some of the other shorter meetings.
Yeah. Usually like the October one is kind of a nice one, especially with projects
Oh, yeah.
finally finishing off. Food Shed Co-op, I think we invited the commission to go out there, and they didn't even open the building yet to the public, so we were kind of the first ones to see the inside and everything. So that was cool. Taylor Place, that received a large section of our home grant last year, or 2 years ago, I'm sorry. Invited us all out for a groundbreaking event. We all had the gold shovels on and the hard hats and stuff, so that was a fun picture opportunity. We usually try to do Community Development Week, which is the last week in April. We're not gonna do that this year because we do have a lot of things going on staff-wise. So we'll be prepared for next year, but usually the last week of April, we'll ask for a proclamation for county board to announce that it's Community Development Week, and then I'll invite the commissioners and everything else to the projects, and we'll do like site visits or something kind of cool, especially if we have projects that are visible, like the Taylor Place and the Food Shed Co-op. So more visible, the really nice it is to see it, but of course with public services, as you heard, a lot of great things are being done, but it's hard to directly get a picture of like Refuge for Women's salary or something like that, but we definitely do our best where we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, so with that, we will start with presentations. So for Full Circle Communities is up next.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
Good morning, everyone. So I do have a presentation or slides again. I'm not trying not to repeat anything because this is the same project. While they get set up, again, this Pearl Street Commons 2. I'm Jordan Bartle with Full Circle Communities, our Vice President of Real Estate Development. So here about the home portion of our request.
Let me get your clicker, sorry about that.
No worries. All right, so quick summary of the project details. Again, I know you all have gotten a lot of presentations over the last day or two. So 10 units of permanent supportive housing. I did look up that Johnsburg development. That is very interesting, a lot of units. It's what we're proposing is kind of a different style of affordable housing. That one is like more workforce housing for 30 to 80% AMI.
Oh, okay.
And like they have 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, so like much,
Bigger.
Yeah, bigger bedroom sizes, and then that's funded by the low income housing tax credit. Where our project is permanent supportive housing, which is for people like 30% AMI and below, so like on the way lower income scale, has a much larger focus on services, like not only the housing, but services that goes with it. And then you gotta target sort of a special population. So for us, that's veterans and people with disabilities. But I'm a fan of all kinds of affordable housing, so wherever we can get it, that's great.
Definitely.
So yeah, again, the target populations at AMI, that in addition to the 10 units, the building will also have staff offices and various amenity spaces. We'll have on-site property management and maintenance staff from my company, Full Circle Communities, and then there'll be on-site services staff and service provision for the residents, and that's through the Association for Individual Development, or AID. They're a nonprofit that focuses on services for people with disabilities. They'll be doing like case management, connecting residents to benefits and other things. And they, like I said yesterday, they are great because they can bill back to Medicaid and help stretch the funding that we provide. Level VA and Veterans Path to Hope, they will provide services to veterans at the property, and then we'll also be doing, like, referring people to the property to be tenants. And then again, our service budget, we take 75% of the developer fee and cash flow, so the money that Full Circle gets, and then we put that into paying for services for the residents, and that is gonna be about what we're estimating right now, $80,000 a year over 10 years. Just a quick refresh on the sources stack. Majority coming from IDA. We applied for that and we should hear back in May. And then we have some committed sources from the county, and then the 2 new ones at the bottom, the CDG and home. And the county, all told, the 4 county pots, I broke them out, make up less than 35% of the total amount. And then I did do a little bit more work to break out the costs, so it wasn't so lumpy. Pointing out again that there's no acquisition cost because we already own the land. The construction costs, that includes the required 10% construction contingency that we have to carry. And that the $600,000 is the home request. That's not in addition. That I just am highlighting like the what we're asking for from the county would pay for construction costs. Design fees is architecture and engineering fees. Other owner costs includes legal fees, permit and impact fees with the city of McHenry. Financing costs includes the insurance, the construction insurance we're required to have. Reserves is like replacement or operating reserves. Those are required underwriting things from IDA. And then admin costs includes real estate taxes, marketing, and then our developer fee. And so that's a big number. But again, we're gonna take 75% of that to put towards services for the residents. And that's what makes up the just under $6 million budget. All right, then, yeah, again, the site plan on the left is the new development. On the right is Pearl Street Commons 1 that already exists. And then this time I also included floor plans. Let's see. So like kind of on
Maybe
the,
see if there's a laser on it.
yeah,
I think there is.
I was
Might
scared
be
to
the-
press
I know.
it.
Okay,
Okay.
so it's this little red
All right,
button.
cool, thanks.
I'll look down.
So here's the entrance to the building, that's the vestibule. There's the property manager's office, we always like to have that near the entry. And then laundry, a computer room, a bathroom. This is like quite a large service space. That's either gonna be service offices, or we've even been talking to the level VA about them putting a satellite office here. Because they have a kind of outpatient clinic in the city of McHenry, a community clinic, but they know there's a lot of veterans and in the McHenry area, and so they're interested in potentially renting space. So trash rooms, so some like mechanical rooms here, and then otherwise there's 4 units on this floor, and they're the accessible ones. And then on the second floor, it is mostly units, so 6 units. And then there's an activity room, storage, and the trash room for the second floor that has like trash chutes. Let's see. And then here's unit plans of a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom. IDA changed their design requirements now for a 2-bedroom has to include a 1.5 bath. So it makes the units a little bit bigger. All right. Again, I don't think I mentioned this yesterday, but the building materials would be, this is like a brick siding, that's the white color one is fiber cement panels. And this will be in color, like we'll choose colors for it. Just a reminder on the dates, we should hear back from IDA about our primary permanent supportive housing funding application. If we're successful in getting that, then we would close in February. We're estimating a pretty quick turnaround to close because we would have to go through a zoning process with the city of McHenry, but we think it's gonna be pretty quick. We got through the big kind of heavy lift of the zoning process the first go around. And then about 11 months of construction. And so kind of early 2027 is when we project this would be up and fully leased. And so, yeah, spring of 27 is when we'd be doing that kind of final reporting that Brandon mentioned to the county and then from you all to HUD. Just a recap of the project benefits. So additional units of permanent supportive housing with accessible units, a green certified building, leverages the county resources, more than doubles it. Helps the county meet one of your priority needs. This is out of your 2020 to 2024 con plan. And then beneficiaries would be 10 households, estimated 10 to 24 individuals in those units, housing for people with disabilities and veterans, and then everybody would be at 30% AMI or below, so the much lower ends of the income spectrum. And that's really it. Thank you again, I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I have a question.
Sure.
We talked about AMI a lot. What is the current, is it average median income?
Area median income.
Area median.
So I don't know it off the top of my head what it is for here, but McHenry County is part of like the Chicago MSA, Metropolitan Statistical Area. A lot of acronyms in this word. Yeah, so it is slightly, I think because the county is part of like the whole Chicago area, it's a little bit higher. And it's not like localized as much. But it looks like they're
Trying to pull it up real quick, but I have it favorited on mine and
There's other projects we've talked about 80%,
Yeah.
AMI.
Yeah.
50, 30 is the lowest one.
this is the AMI chart.
So that's, just 50 and 80.
Mm-hmm.
And
And then lower would be your
Lower.
30s, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Wow, okay.
This is for our lead program, so that's why we're targeting the 50 and 80s.
Got kind of a speculative question. Granted, you already own the land, and you own the land across the parking lot where you already built the building, so you've got, some synergies there. But if you had to go out and buy this tract of land where the new building is going to be built, off the top of your head, what do you think that lot would cost?
I think when we bought it back in 2016, I believe it was in the whole property was in like the $400,000 range. That was, about almost 10 years ago. So, I mean, maybe it would be about like just that, the half now would be like $300,000.
I'm kind of looking at that as like equity, frankly. Other question is, in terms of your assessed valuation, is it assessed as a apartment building or something else?
For affordable housing, it's like uses the income approach, so we like have to, but yes, as like either commercial or multifamily.
Okay, and the new building would be at the same calculation? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we don't do, even though Full Circle is a nonprofit, we pay property taxes because the entity that owns the building is not a nonprofit.
Tracy, I got a question if I may.
Absolutely, go ahead, Larry.
When the ARPA funds were committed from the county, that was when you were looking at doing 25 units, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can we go back to that budget sheet by any chance?
Yeah, what the one from, so everybody can see it.
Thanks for pulling up that information.
Yeah.
Do you want to see the budget you said?
Yeah, I just want to see it again real quick. That was interesting. No, the next, yeah, there we go. So your developer fee, you say 75% is going back into services for both buildings or for this building? I assume it's
For this building, yep.
And that's,
They both generate their own developer fee and
so
cash
there's
flow.
separately that way, okay. And then that's over the next 10 years? Did you say? If I understand that.
The like $80,000 that I estimated, it takes the developer fee and then also our projection of like the year-over-year cash flow. And then I like took that over 10 years and then like kind of divided by 10 years.
Okay, and it's just an estimate, obviously, so, okay.
Yeah, and it's really like $80,000 is pretty high for that number of units and also like what we usually do at a property. And that's really because I'll go back one. Like, and what is really helpful for this type of housing, permanent supportive housing, is that, as you'll see on here, there's not any like traditional bank debt. Like we don't have a debt payment that, as this is figured, we don't have a debt payment that is like a required debt payment. We will pay IDA, like there will be a debt payment, but it's not like a traditional bank.
Is there like a recapture with the IDA funds?
Yes, yeah. Like a land use restriction that will go with the land, yeah, for I think 30 years at a minimum. And then we aren't deferring any of our developer fee. A lot of times to help close a gap, we have to defer payment of our developer fee and use that money instead to pay for costs. Since we aren't doing that, we're able to pay for, like, have a high budget for services. So if, like, you know, if we were to not get, you know, either of the county sources, we would have to seek out a bank loan or defer our fee. Both would, like, the project would be able to move forward, but both would impact the amount of services that Full Circle could do at the property.
So what are you sure that the IDA funds will be approved? I mean, does the project go away if you don't get IDA approval?
If we.
That's the big
Correct, yeah, it would, but since we own the land, I think the timing thing here is the home ARP and CDBG CV funds. Those were awarded to us, and like, so we've been trying diligently to get a project going so that those funds don't time out. So our IDA application, if we get that, since it's the largest source, we would be able to move forward.
And if you don't?
Then we would not move forward, no.
Would you try again?
Of course, we would try again. Yeah, we've done that. I mean, on the original Pearl project, we applied twice to IDA for tax credits.
Right.
Were unsuccessful, and then we applied for their permanent supportive housing funding. We were successful. So it took 3 applications.
Yeah, okay.
That's atypical for us. Usually we get it in one, either on the first try or the second try.
And then as far as the ownership structure, you said that the nonprofit doesn't own the property, and so you are paying property taxes. Can you explain that ownership?
Sure. So we set up like a separate entity that's just a LLC, basically but Full Circle is the sole owner of that. So it's to basically mitigate risk, so that if a property were to fail, basically, it wouldn't affect the entire company and all the other properties. So that LLC is not a nonprofit, so therefore the property pays property tax. This is on the tax roll.
Okay, and those 2 buildings are separate or combined for that purpose?
They would be separate ownership entities, both wholly owned by Full Circle Communities.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah, I think that is the like, if you were to ask any developer, that would be what they set things on.
Larry, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Do we have any other questions?
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill, you don't have a presentation.
Okay, next up, Habitat for Humanity. Thank you for coming back.
Thank you. Good morning again. In case you don't remember, my name's Joel Williams. I am the president and CEO of Lake McHenry Habitat for Humanity. And I have with me our vice president of programs, Sarah Davis. So we're going to be a little different today from our presentation last time. Last time we were talking about repairs and the value of that, but today we're going to be talking about home ownership. Another thing I want to highlight before we get into it is that we are a community housing development organization, or the worst acronym that HUD has, a CHODO. There's only one O, but somehow you get 2. Even after the merge, we continue to be a CHODO. We made sure that we structured ourselves in such a way that we can continue to serve as a CHODO, have that board representation, the focus on that, in order to make sure that we can continue to do the work that CHODOs do. So our project today is an exciting project for us. This is going to be a subdivision of Habitat Homes. In the past, when we have come to you for support, it has been for houses scattered throughout different places, that we were going to have an impact here, do an infill house here. We were going to be doing that in many different places. But this particular project is a 10-unit subdivision called Trinity Trail. It's in unincorporated Woodstock. It was a subdivision that got plotted but never built. So we were able to acquire the property and are planning now to build the 10 Habitat homes there. There's a lot of value in this, not only in the efficiency that we can do by having everything in one place, being able to achieve some economies of scale, being able to have our volunteers and other folks know where they're going and not have to, guess where it's going to be. There's a lot of good things for us on that, but then it also is a really good thing for the people that we are serving. Habitat's tagline is building homes, building community, building hope. And this is really the building community piece. When you're going to have somebody else that is your neighbor that is going to be going through the same program that you are, having all of the same questions about homeownership, you're really gonna build that support network, which we're particularly excited about. The lots that are plotted are the typical single-family size lots. And we would be building our typical Habitat home, but we would be having a variety of different models. So we would have some 2-bedroom, some 3-bedroom. We may even be able to get some 4-bedroom units in there. And we're gonna wanna make sure that it looks different. This is something that is important. We don't want it to be a cookie cutter subdivision in any way. So we're really excited to be able to have 10 units to be able to do 10 different models that we have there. So the Habitat model, as some of you are probably familiar with, we not only build the house, but we work with who's actually going to be owning the house through a process to make sure that they are prepared for home ownership. Some of these things are things that I wish that were available to me when becoming a homeowner. It's a lot of stuff that we don't necessarily think about, but our program is pretty robust. Sarah's going to speak for a little bit about what our Homeowner Services Department is and does, and how that benefits the homeowners.
Yes, so our Homeowner Services Department basically shepherds our families through the program. So everything from pre-screen when people come to us thinking, I just want a house, to, oh, can I afford a house when they go to counseling, and then everything after from the time they're accepted into the program to the time they move into their home. So we are constantly checking in with them. We are constantly talking to them about how they can manage their budget. We are sending them where they need to be sent, whether it's consumer credit counseling or SEPA or wherever they need to go to get those tools. We also provide a lot of training through just, when they are able to volunteer and take part in their homes and see what's going on, whether it's installing a fire alarm, smoke alarm, sorry, or a doorknob or whatever the case may be, so that they are self-sufficient. The idea is to keep everything sustainable, not just from the time they get in to the time they get into their actual home, but even after. Sustainability includes those times after, so we're not getting somebody into their house and suddenly they're in over their head a year later. So we have a really good program, a really good team of intake coordinators, and they take care of our people from start to finish.
So one of the things that's nice about that is we refer to everybody we serve as a partner family. They are truly in partnership with us. They are working with us to make sure that they get all of the education and other things that Sarah had mentioned. But then also, she had alluded to that participation in the construction of the house. Having knowledge of how your furnace works or how some of these things works, because they will inevitably go wrong. Everybody who's ever owned a home knows that you're gonna have to fix that stuff yourself. There's no landlord to call anymore. And so making sure that they have as much knowledge of that as possible and also are invested in the success of their home is a big part of it. I'm gonna talk a little bit just about what we feel is the benefit of home ownership. As Jordan said, all affordable housing is good affordable housing. We are supportive of anything that is going to add to the affordable housing stock in McHenry County. But home ownership has a particular benefit in this time. It is becoming increasingly more expensive and out of reach for so many families and individuals in McHenry County and throughout the nation, really. Home ownership, which was the American dream, is becoming further and further out of reach for folks. We know that there needs to be a continuum of housing options available for people. Many of the people that we are serving are certainly capable of being homeowners in a past time, but now with the increased costs, the increased loan interest rates, the increased need for a large down payment, it becomes out of reach. So we want to make sure that people who have that home ownership dream are able to achieve it. We're opening that door to home ownership, but then what that also does is that frees up the unit that they were in. While we're not taking people that have historically been unhoused, we are taking people that are in a housing unit that could probably be better used by somebody else. And so what we're looking at is by adding to the housing stock, we are making sure that we are providing a larger continuum of housing services. Yesterday, when I was talking about preservation and the importance of that, still strongly believe in that, but we have an affordable housing crisis in this country. There is just not enough units being built. There's not enough units of non-affordable housing being built. We are having a construction crisis, so we need to add to the stock as well. Habitat, we really want to do the both and. We want to preserve the existing housing stock and we want to add to the housing stock as well. So this presentation today is about adding to that housing stock. Also want to talk about just the benefit of the Habitat model, Habitat specifically outside of homeownership. So because we are a homeownership program, the funds that you are investing into this project now are going to be able to then be reused over and over and over again because we are selling the homes to the homeowner. These are mortgages that are issued through partner banks and other things, with their payments being limited to 30% of their income. So there is support from Habitat to make sure that it remains affordable, but then that money that we receive from that mortgage then goes in to build another house. So for every investment that is made, when that house gets sold, the money that is used for that goes into another house. It's that upfront capital that we're asking McHenry County for, which is going to be very helpful for us in allowing us to get to that point to be able to sell those homes and continue to recycle that capital over and over. So we are very excited about this project. As I said, it's our first time that we've had 10 units all together, where sometimes we'll have 2 or 3, maybe 4, but this is a really good opportunity for us. So we're looking forward to it. As Brandon was mentioning, we will be having a groundbreaking for this, and we'd certainly, welcome all of you when we do have that. We'll have to get gold shovels, I guess. We only have the black shovels, but we'll certainly make sure to get some of that. But we are just really grateful for the opportunity to continue to partner with you all and think that this would be a very worthwhile investment of the limited funds that you have to be able to further affordable housing in McHenry County. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for this project?
Sorry, I've got a bunch of questions. You mentioned that you purchased 10 lots.
Yes.
Okay, and the purchase price was approximately?
So it was 2 purchases. They were owned by 2 people, so it was a little over, about 240,000 combined.
Okay, and so your request for 600,000, obviously that's not for one house.
No, so we'd spread that out over the 10 houses. And so there would be an investment of county funds into each of those 10 houses. And the balance would then be funded by other sources that we have, just general fundraising efforts, our Restore, I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, that generates money for our housing. And then we have it kind of plotted out so that when we sell that first house, then that money goes reinvested and can cover all of the 10.
How many houses do you anticipate will be going at one time?
I'm sorry, what?
Will be under construction at one time, how many houses?
So right now, the plan is 4, 4, and 2. So it would be starting 4 at the same time, getting close to completion, starting the next 4. And so I guess there would be 8 altogether, but they would be at different stages.
So the funds of 600,000, is it allocated per house? Is it I guess what I'm asking, is it kind of like a revolving fund? You're going to borrow so much per house and then roll it over to the next one, or is there a specific amount per house? If
the full 600,000 is awarded, then it would be 60,000 per house. And so we would start the first 4 houses, get to the point where we would have enough eligible expenses to be able to do a draw of $60,000 for each house, draw that, and then prepare for the next house.
Okay.
What are you estimating the total cost for these 10 houses?
So construction costs usually run between 150 and 180. That was the last time we built a house.
Yeah.
We don't really know what construction costs are going to be,
Especially right now, yeah.
yes. So, I mean, we do have, some contingencies built into our overall budget. But depending on the size of the house and everything, it's about 150 to 180. We try to keep costs as low as we possibly can, not only in terms of our purchasing power and other things like that, but then the use of volunteer labor when we can. We do that, and that helps us keep it reasonably low.
Right, okay.
Go ahead.
Did you say this subdivision is within the city of Woodstock or unincorporated?
It's unincorporated,
So it's
yes.
the township then would serve this community?
Correct, yes.
And where is it roughly?
Off Ridgefield, if you go down Ridgefield Road past Advia, somewhere over there, and I believe it's, you're gonna have to correct me if I'm wrong here. Is it Crystal Lake Schools and a Woodstock address?
Correct.
Something like that, yes, so, and that is
It's
also.
across from the lumberyard.
Correct, thank you very much, thank you. I'm driving in my head, you know?
Sorry?
There were two parcels?
Yeah, so it was originally plotted as one, and then the original owner sold 6 of the lots to a developer who wound up not developing it, so we needed to do 2 separate transactions, one for 6 lots, one for 4.
Okay, these all contiguous then?
Yes, yes.
Okay, what about site improvements?
So we would need to do, I can't remember, it would need septic on each lot and a well, but the other site improvements are, the road is already.
Yeah, the road is there, infrastructure is there, yes, yes.
Very fortunate.
Yeah.
That's what we said, I'm sorry.
You don't
Am I allowed
find
to say
these
that?
very often. A lot of times we see an empty field where we can imagine
Right.
something, but this was tailor-made for us.
Yes.
I'm thinking of that project yesterday, yes. Good.
Ted, do you have another question?
Yeah, sorry. So as far as the sewer goes, do you know where the water table is? Are septic's going to be allowed?
They are, yes. So we did
Okay,
do
so you
some
did check.
engineering as
Right.
part of our due diligence to acquire it,
Good,
yes.
good, okay, that's huge.
The only thing that is, that we need to do is the subdivision as was platted had some covenant codes and restrictions that were placed on it when it was platted. And so we needed to acquire all 10 of the lots. We couldn't just buy from one of them in order to amend those, because some of those require like 2,000 square foot houses. We're not a 2,000 square foot house builder.
Gotcha.
And so once we acquire all of them, we're gonna be able to amend those.
Are you going to re-subdivide into additional units? Or
No.
so how large are each of these lots?
I don't know exactly. I mean, they're not like quarter acre lots or anything like that. I mean, they're a
They're
good
small.
size,
Yeah.
they're good size.
Yeah.
So they're larger than a quarter acre?
No, they're smaller.
No,
Gotcha, okay. Similar to what you did on McHenry and Crystal
that
Lake?
was our sister affiliate, Northern Fox Valley.
Okay.
So, but, yes,
Close, yeah.
close,
Yeah.
close, yes.
I should have brought our construction manager.
know,
who could
yeah.
tell you exactly the square footage.
Okay.
They're nice sized lots if we're, is it Trinity Trail?
Correct,
Mhm,
yes.
Correct, yes.
They're nice sized lots,
Mhm.
so. That is a great piece of.
Yeah, when we look for home ownership, I mean, there's an advantage to having density, obviously, but you know, there's also that's part of the American dream of home ownership is having that yard of your own. You know, the amount of excitement that some of our partner families have of mowing the lawn. You do it a few times and then we can talk
Yes.
about it,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of, you know, excitement of just having that place that they've never had the opportunity to have.
Do we have any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
Oh, yeah, no, we got it. Yeah, thank you.
New directions.
Thanks, Breeze.
That's from yesterday?
No, that's Prairie State Legal. I'm not sure if they're. Have we heard from Prairie State Legal? Are they
I didn't, I can ask Brandon if he
Okay.
did, but I know he emailed him yesterday, so please try to have someone here
today.
Yeah, I drove by that subdivision one day for 5 years. How come you never, I have like, we used to get in the road out there, but after that.
Did we hear from Prairie State?
Oh, no, I didn't get an email from them at all.
Okay. Okay, I have a note here to put them at the bottom. So our new directions? Yep. Please have a seat. We've got about 10 minutes for your presentation, if you need it, and then about 5 minutes for follow-up questions.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
New haircut.
Yes. All right, thanks for having us and allowing us to get to this point where we can explain our project to you. So my name is Bobby Gattone. I'm the Director of New Directions Addiction Recovery Services. We've been before your committee in the past for other projects we've done. This is our Housing for Sustained Recovery project in Woodstock. So what this project is essentially is it's going to add 12 beds of affordable housing for individuals transitioning out of our sober living program. We have already acquired the lot, started a lot of the work, engineering, architecture, all part of an ARPA grant that we applied for over 3 years ago now. So that ARPA project is essentially for, as I said, 6 two-bedroom apartments to add 12 beds of affordable housing. So this lot is located on Jackson near Route 14. Another advantage of this project for us strategically is it's just about 3 blocks away from our retreat facility, which is where we have the bulk of our sober living housing, our case management, all of our staff, so very close by. So it's considered a 3-quarter living arrangement, and what 3-quarter living is typically stages of SUD treatment will be detox to treatment facility to a sober living facility to potentially 3-quarter living. So it's one of the biggest identified needs we've had over the past 6 years of providing sober living. What we run into in this county with the way things are with our housing situation is the individuals who are successful in our sober living at the point of about a year to 16 months, we're kind of pushing them along to move out, to get their own place, to move towards self-sufficiency. Most of those individuals have a really difficult time being able to save up for a security deposit and first month's rent for an apartment, which might be $1,700 locally, whatever they can find. So unfortunately, we've had some really unfortunate cases of people who are doing really well and end up moving into a very budget situation, whether it's upstairs from a bar or whatever that looks like, and it ends up being not the most safe environment and causing a relapse. So we've been striving to offer these apartments at affordable rates for people successful in our program. They have all the freedom of anybody in their own apartment, but they will be tested for drugs and alcohol at least once a month. And they still have access to a case manager as needed, and we at least check in with them once a month on that as well. They'd be allowed to stay in these apartments for 12 to 18 months. We do have some history here to show that this has been successful. We currently have 3 apartments that we've been renting for the last 2 years, but there is quite a bottleneck. So we have up to 60 people in sober living at any given time, and then we have 5 total beds of 3-quarter housing. So as you can imagine, we're not meeting the need right now. So this would, increase our capacity for three-quarter living, fourfold, so. Some of the need that a lot of you are already aware of is the lack of affordable housing in McHenry County. Some benefits of recovery housing in particular are improved mental health, reduced use of emergency services, and safer communities. These folks that are typically in three-quarter living are people who have turned their lives around, who are now great employees in the community for employers, volunteers, people sponsoring other people in 12-step programs, and we're really encouraging them to give back to the community. So a big piece of this is also allowing people to transition successfully back into society, and by supporting their housing needs and their recovery needs, it makes for a much more successful transition. The other thing that we've been seeing a lot is folks that will do really well in our housing for 9 to 12 months and stay sober. A lot of times they'll move out, and all of the stressors of the extremely expensive apartment and everything else going on in their lives all at the same time, and then a complete lack of support at that point. A lot of folks will end up relapsing because of that. So again, kind of transitioning down, it just adds one more step down in our housing support for people in recovery in the county to help them transition back to get on their feet. So as I mentioned before, this project was initially green-lighted by an ARPA grant a few years ago. It was $980,000, so that allowed for phase one. In complete transparency, I think the way the timeline shook out, I began the application almost 4 years ago, and the world has changed a little bit, and things have cost a little more now than they did back then. So the costs of this project have gone up since my initial application. We did take some time to ramp up to find the right property, et cetera. So again, at this point, we've acquired the site. We've done all that architecture and engineering. We're securing our final permits right now through Woodstock. We've got a lot of those permits. We've done some of the landscaping and site prep, everything we can up to the permits that we're waiting on now. We also just recently secured another $260,000 grant from the Mental Health Board just to complete phase 2 of the project. So that puts us to the $1.2 million for the first 2 phases. And what's left is this $206,000 for phase 3, which is essentially interior finishes, cabinetry, painting, asphalt for the parking lot, appliances and equipment to get us over that hump. We already have the cash in hand to break ground this month, which is what we're anticipating later this month, early next month. And the timing actually works out well because we shouldn't need any of these phase 3 projects done until November of this year, which would line up with I think the funding timeline here. So how we measure success for this project is, as I said, they still get regular case management. It's much less frequent. So in our sober living, without going into that too far, we meet with individuals weekly. Here, it would be monthly, a little bit less intensive. But again, if anybody hits a roadblock and stumbles while they're in this 3-quarter living environment, they have access to their case manager anytime to get extra support. We review all the outcomes of our projects regularly. I have a housing director who works with myself and an intake team. With the help of home funding, we can provide safe and supportive living for 240 individuals over the next 15 years. And this is because of the fact that we only offer, typically people are only in this environment for 1 year at a time. So we'd be helping, 12 people each year with those increased beds. I kind of already went over this. This might be redundant. Yeah, the other piece that I did not mention is part of what we wrote into the ARPA grant, and I wanted this kind of written in there so we adhered to it, whether it was myself in this role when it was completed or not, but we're capped at 75% fair market rent for what we're charging for the units. So they're gonna always be affordable housing on top of the extra support we offer. So not only is the individual getting brand new construction apartment at 75% of what they would usually cost, but they're also getting the case management and other support on top of that. And that they know that they're in a building where their neighbors are all individuals that are sober as well. So it's a safe place for them. So by partnering with New Directions, the county can help us provide a pathway to long-term recovery and independence. And together we can change lives and strengthen the community for a brighter future. Most of these photos are from the retreat facility that I mentioned is just a couple blocks away, which is again another real good benefit to the location of the project. So I can take any questions.
I do. So you stated that these funds would complete the project in addition to the funds received from Mental Health Board?
Correct.
So, and you anticipate this being completed this year or next year?
At the point we're at with permits, I think it's much more likely to say February, probably March 1 is our target for having people moved in. We kind of, the timing wasn't great because we started applying for permits right when Woodstock switched over to the electronic permitting system, so it's been a little tricky.
So you mentioned that you're building 6 2-unit?
Correct.
What do those units look like, and are these family members that will be occupying these units, or how does that work?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's essentially they're just 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartments, and
Kitchen?
it would be unrelated individuals. Yeah, with a kitchen. They are 950 square feet per apartment, 960, I believe. But unrelated individuals. The building will be co-ed, but each unit will be either a men's unit or a women's unit for each apartment. So we won't have men and women sharing an apartment. So we have pretty strict policies with 3-quarter living. So even though people have a lot of freedom to come and go, we have rules over you can't really have your boyfriend or your girlfriend come stay overnight because you've got a roommate. You got to respect that. So there are some restrictions beyond like a normal apartment.
And is this your first housing or foray into housing individuals?
It's not. So right now we opened our first sober living home 9 years ago in Crystal Lake, and we've opened 2 other in residential neighborhoods, and then we took over the PADS shelter and turned that into the New Directions retreat. So all in all now we have 59 beds of sober living.
Okay.
And then we've got 3 apartments that we rent in Crystal Lake that we basically sublet and just break even on just to provide some 3-quarter living. So another benefit that didn't make it into the presentation of this is that we are trying to become more sustainable and less reliant on mental health board, government grants entirely. So one benefit of this project also is that we wouldn't have a mortgage on this property. So after paying case managers and maintenance, there would be some revenue that we'd bring in to help sustain the programs through the rent fees too.
I have a question. Do you have a staff member that is either on site or that monitors your transitional housing?
Yeah, so we it won't be necessarily staffed as heavily as like the sober living homes, but we have full-time maintenance staff and a housing director and the case managers who work with the people prior to them coming to that apartment building. So those folks will all be floating in as needed. Maintenance will stay on top of things. The director will do a walkthrough once a week, and then the case managers come in and out to meet with their individual clients. Yeah. But we opted not to use any of the space in the building for like a dedicated office or anything like that.
Does anybody have any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Am I able to stay for deliberations?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So I did have a note here, that Prairie State Legal.
And ironically, when you asked me earlier, I didn't have an email from them, and now I do.
Okay.
So he responded to me yesterday. I emailed him back about a couple minutes after, 20 minutes, and he said he couldn't make it. He said, "I'm so sorry I missed your email. Please let me know next steps since I was unable to coordinate something for this morning."
Okay, I guess I will leave that up to the group during deliberations. I mean, we've all seen their applications. They've been coming before us for quite a few years. So I guess with that, we can move to deliberations. We'll start off with home, just kind of give you an idea. Because the next one will be
Harder.
Oh, yeah, a lot more difficult. I kind of like to, I'm not sure that you can go around.
What are you looking at me for? You want me to start? On homes?
I guess, yeah, if, I think I'd like to go around the room and hear everybody's thoughts. You know, this one, there's not as much money, and there's a couple bigger asks.
Just to be cognizant, it is 540 that we will be allocating after the administration dollars are pulled off, so I know we have two projects requesting the $600,000, but it'll actually be a $540,000 full request if it goes towards one project.
Okay. I guess I'll start. I really like the Habitat for Humanity with offering single-family homes in that area. It's pretty much ready to go. But with that said, you know, it's incredibly difficult because all of these programs are good. They're good for the community. They offer housing, which is desperately needed. Larry, I guess I'll jump to Larry just so I don't forget him. Do you have any comments that you want to make?
Well, sure. I agree with you with the Habitat for Humanity stuff. I think either of them and New Directions, we're looking at, they're putting in units that are in the $200,000 range as opposed to the Pearl Street Commons, which comes in at like $600,000 a unit. So I would, if I was doing it just myself, I would say that the New Directions would get their $206,000 and the balance would go to Habitat for Humanity. Because the Habitat for Humanity can break down that project into one or two houses, 4 houses, whatever they got to work with. They can break that project up a little bit. That's what I would say is, I'm hearing some background noise.
Yeah, there's something going on there.
HVAC.
I'm not sure what that
Yeah,
is.
there's an HVAC.
Okay. So did you hear me? Did you hear me okay?
Yes, yep, yeah.
Okay, so that's where I would be at. How's the New Directions? They need the money to get that project finished up. They already got a lot of money tied up in it. So I would give them that balance of 206, and then the rest of it to Habitat for Humanity would be how I feel about this one.
Okay. Dick, we'll start. Do you have any comments on?
Sorry, you talking to me?
Yes, sorry. On where you're at with allocations for home?
I was doing the arithmetic, and everything is deserving. Larry's comments are just fine. If you did it proportionally, going back to something Larry said years ago, you can't build half a bridge. Yeah, I go along with that, absolutely.
What do you think, Sue?
I would like to see the full circle building completed on that corner in McHenry. So I would like to see that go for the veterans.
What do you think, Robert?
I've got an opinion, always got an opinion. My questions I was asking of Habitat for Humanity were getting to the point of how many houses can they complete at one time? And when they're talking about doing four, doing two, and with $60,000 a house, they're not gonna have all 10 houses going on at the same time. And so I'm leaning towards giving them enough money for the first 4, so that they can then turn that money around and they sell it and they go on to the next ones.
What do you think, Lou?
Yeah, I thought the Habitat for Humanity project was probably my number 1. New Directions was number 2. I did like the Full Circle Communities project as well. And I think, when I was looking at the allocation, I was probably more in line with giving a little bit of money to all 3 projects, with the bulk going to the Habitat for Humanity project.
What do you think?
Are you looking at me?
Yeah.
I was, I was ready to say fully fund Habitat, and then Larry brought up a good point, you did as well, that project could be phased. So I did like Larry's suggestion of fully funding New Directions with balance going to Habitat.
What do you think, Ken?
Yeah, I think they're all worthy projects. The thing about Pearl that I can't get past is the $600,000 a unit. That's just very high. I did a quick addition of basically the admin costs, admin, developer, other, and that's almost 2 million of that 6. It just seems out of line, so I kind of agree with Larry, although I think I do about 75% of New Directions ask, and then the balance to Habitat.
I guess I'll just make a comment on I know every year we struggle with this per unit cost, and a lot of it has to do with the structure of the funding. And other, I think Taylor Place Homes was another one of those. When that came before us, that was a very high per unit cost, and a lot of people had issues with that. But then it got to the type of project it is, and for these things to move forward, and the type of funding that they're required to get, which, I mean, you saw kind of the list of every place they have to get funding, and kind of how that works. It does lend to a higher cost per unit.
And that's what we've seen nationally too, just from other community development offices. It's $400 to about $600,000 per unit, just nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand that. And granted, they're getting funds from different sources.
Yeah. So what do you think, Christina?
So I would like to see definitely New Direction completed and the remainder to Habitat, because I like the phased idea.
Phased idea.
I liked what you said, that
Yeah,
the
so-
remainder of the money go
So
to
if-
them so they can complete it.
Right, so if you do 4 units at 260,000, that's 240,000. And I was just doing some math in my head. And then New Directions around 200,000, then at least about 100,000 that they could possibly go to Full Circle Communities, to Pearl Street, to assist them with their funding sources.
So if you throw up the 206 New Directions,
what was the dollar amount for the habitat that you
It was
came up?
$60, $60,000 per,
So it'd be 240.
240.
240, yeah.
So then. So we have 93 left.
Yeah, 93,950.
Then would you be able to have funding? Would you be able to raise funding for the remainder?
Yes, and like anything would help us get there, so I would of course not turn down. I think I mentioned we would just need to go kind of grant writing for additional funds, seek out a bank loan, or Full Circle would defer our fee to close the gap.
I like that idea. I could go with that.
If you want to make an even number, you know, it'd be 200 to New Directions and 100 to Full Circle.
Do you want to
See,
see
like
that?
even numbers.
I do.
And this isn't as hard because this is our home portfolio, but just to see CDBG
Right.
fully fund. Fully fund for CDBG, please.
So you have to wait, so you, just my question, you have to wait to see what they actually fully allocate to our county before these numbers, okay.
Correct, yeah, so we're anticipating the award being 600,000. If we get 540,000, then I just bring everybody down by that same percentage.
Do we have a general consensus?
Yeah, you looking for a motion?
Yes, please.
How about, I move that we fund, Full Circle Communities in the amount of $100,000, Habitat for Humanity in the amount of $240,000, and New Directions in the amount of $200,000 with home funds.
I'll second.
All right. Mr. Shu seconds. How about we do a roll call?
Paskey,
Aye.
Shu,
Aye.
Adamson,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Grammer,
Aye.
Draftcorn,
Aye.
Hausman,
Aye.
Smith,
Yes.
Von Bergen.
Yes. Great, motion carries.
See how easy it is?
That was, this was
All
the
right,
easy
good
one,
trial
right?
run.
This was the easy one?
That's your practice.
Wow. It's gonna be a little hard.
Is that a problem?
Page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
After this one.
Okay, now
Now the beast.
the more difficult one. You know, we've got a couple in there that are some pretty big asks. I guess to start off, I would like to see Hebron Township funded as close to fully as we could get.
Yeah, it might be good to see if there's any that you all agree on that you would like to see fully funded, and then we can put those numbers in and see what the remainder might look like.
Mainly because there are some life issues there with not having water for,
Is that the road that's corroding and the water?
and the
supply?
water line
That's not
repair.
working.
Yeah, that's right on the edge of the village limits.
I think they're, well, that one is a real conundrum. I was really, thinking about that one. Because you got the township or the highway that needs to maintain the road, but the residents own the water thing or whatever, but yet they're not willing to pay anything. And it needs to be done in conjunction. And there are other ways to finance that, either by going some type of special assessment with the homeowners in that area.
And I think what makes it really qualify for this program is the fact that all of those homeowners are low income, which makes it a little bit more difficult to pony up that kind of money.
Are we able to ask the village? I know they mentioned the road commissioner, I think, stated that if we contribute and finish, then they will take it over. Is there any way we can make it contingent upon an agreement from them?
I don't think so. And the only reason I have a little bit more background on this, one of the buildings on Green Street used to be the Township Road District building. So I'm a little bit familiar with that street in and of itself. And that road was to be tied into a subdivision back in the 80s. And that's why the village put that water line in, because there was the intention of a subdivision back there. So that's kind of
In the Motorola days?
why, well, no, but, so that's why the village put that in, apparently. And they just never got finished.
I thought the residents owned the water line.
So the village, yes, the village supplies the water to that line.
Supplies.
Yeah, so they don't have any like sewer hookup to the village or anything like that. I imagine down the road with that done, the village would take it over with those repairs done. So then at least they would have, the maintenance, but.
Yeah, my concern with that one is that it's half of our funding. Basically half of our.
And they did mention that, just to do the water main would be $250.
And the roads are corroding, so to do the water, they're gonna have their equipment, right, on the roads that.
And the road is the road district's
Right.
responsibility. He says, I don't do water, so do we just do the water and let the road district do the road?
It's kind of an all or nothing project, it seems.
Yeah, if you did it that way, I don't know who would,
Because you're gonna tear it up.
who would do the water.
Yeah, that's the way I prefer to do it, but, I think the road district's not super excited about putting a local match in on the water project alone. And the city, those are their customers, they could probably do it, they're not in front of us here today. So that would have been a better project, I think, if the city pushed this project forward.
My only comment would be if they were to come for funding for something else down the line. It seems like the issue is with the two needing to kind of come to the same page, or else we're gonna be asked a future request, and that would be my only kind of, not worry, but on my radar, that they need to kind of come together, decide what this area is going to be, who it's gonna fall to, and then come to us, in my opinion. If it's the homeowners or if it's, the village or whatever, but.
You got three entities, you've got the village,
Right.
you've got the township, the road district, and the,
So if we fund this project and we do the roads or whatever, the lines and everything, is there something else in that area that they are still straddling on who has jurisdiction over that will come to us in the future? Would be my only.
I think if I was a homeowner, I wouldn't know that. Since I already have septic,
Right.
put a well in.
I think it's a great project and it's needed. I just don't want it to be an issue that comes for us again in the future.
If I may interject, someone brought up yesterday about that this could be contingent on the Village of Hebron annexing those properties. If that's what we need to do to get that done. I think the village would probably do that.
Yeah. I agree.
And then it would be finished and they'd have safe water and.
I think, can I say
Absolutely.
a word? Absolutely. I struggled with this one yesterday when I was talking to Zeke, and then last night, the more I thought about it, this is the biggest life safety issue in front of us. Fire protection, safe drinking water, and the civil construction world, and I do as well, and it doesn't make sense to do one without the other. And they're going $4,000 every repair. There are auto companies that want to repair that thing because after they work on it, the water line's just going to fall apart. And this is a tough one, but I think it's the most significant life safety issue in front of us. So I'm in favor of full funding for it.
I agree.
even though it does take half our funds.
That's my only, that's a heavy lift.
But it's a life safety.
Yeah. For an issue that they're straddling, I mean, the village could chime in at any point and say that, well, but they're trying to save $1 to use our dollars, so I mean, that's kind of a.
Yeah, I have a tough time with 100%.
Well, and
I just think they need some skin in the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I
we do
do
have stuff in
fund
the
them less than that
By
and have
nature.
Hebron, you know, step up to the line.
And I think it gets back to, though, that a lot of these rural communities do not have the tax base to, and they will never in the near future have the tax base to do some of the infrastructure that they need. I know with bigger communities come bigger problems sometimes, but I feel like they have a lot more room to get their infrastructure needs under control, where a lot of the smaller communities don't, and especially the smaller communities that have the lower income base on top of it.
So I think we're in agreement that it needs to be done. The question is, do they have everything in place to get it done? All the agreements between all the different entities.
Would they have to be completed by that deadline of the funding? Or is it September 26th next year?
That's when they would, so they would get the
We
funding
can have
by
longer agreements, which is okay.
So it can be for something like this? I just, because these kind of projects can take some time to get going or get built.
Yeah, I thought their timeline, he did have, HHR Green had timelines for each of their projects, and I thought they all fall within.
It's just that this one with the number of players and getting cooperation and agreement, you know, could that stymie that? So just a lot going on.
Didn't we have something similar with Prairie Avenue a few years ago?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah, I
within the
think-
village.
I think it was, yeah, within the village.
Yeah.
I think it was pitched the same way, that it was, you know, really essential.
What was the result with Prairie? How did you guys?
It was fully
Pretty much
funded.
Fully funded,
yeah.
and they completed the project?
They're just finishing it up now. I believe they have the road.
Similar
to
safety
do-
type?
Yeah, I mean, the way the village was structured with their water lines was, it didn't grow, I guess, in the most logical way.
See, if only Motorola had come in, you know?
Wasn't the other safety one the lift
Sort of.
stations for Lakemore? Like, if the first 2 lift stations, if those aren't repaired, it could take out the whole system? Because that one had safety
So-
implications too.
So I tend to look at a lot of these a little bit more in depth, and I noticed on the Northern Marine Wastewater Treatment Center, the last 4 years, and they have passed a resolution this year for their levy payable this next year. They've abated pretty much their entire levy increase, which was about $450,000. Normally I would applaud that move, you know, to keep taxes down for their constituents, but I feel you should also take care of your infrastructure if you have the means to do so.
So
So when they're abating their taxes back to the people, but not taking care of their infrastructure,
So when I bought there in Lakemore, it was new construction and they had SSAs for this infrastructure built into our tax bills for 6 years. So you wonder what part of the village, I mean, because the residents funded a lot of it when they did the new construction on both sides.
Yeah, that was my only issue with that one, because I mean, otherwise it's, again, it's a great project, but it's a big ask, and really the district does have the means to pay for it.
Seems like the,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, it seems like the communities that are capable of being self-sufficient should be, you know, as much as possible. I mean, Hebron obviously, much lower tax base, different situation. You know, that may not be possible. Just my thoughts.
Tracy, if I may?
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. As far as the different entities in Hebron getting along, I think if they've seen this amount of money to fix a problem that's been ongoing for so many years, that they would all jump for joy and figure out how to make it work so they could correct this problem that's just been an ongoing issue for them. I think everybody would be on board. I don't see that being a problem in the long run at all. Thanks.
So are we saying to fund it, we want the city to annex the property after it's done?
I don't know if we could really force their hand like that. I mean, that's a city council or a village council decision.
Yeah, they do have a new administration there, so. I don't know that we can
Do that.
put that requirement on it, although I really don't think it would, like Larry said, I think that once the problem's fixed, they'll be on board to helping maintain it, because the look of that would be at least 20 years down the road, hopefully.
Yeah, Tracy, I got a question for you, please. And then I think Hebron would be willing to annex it if they could get that get this fix made. My question, maybe you're familiar with it, is it seems like the new subdivision on the east end of town, and then there's some open space before you get to Green Street. And would Hebron be able to annex it without annexing that portion, or is it already part of Hebron? I'm not sure.
That subdivision is, is already.
That's in the village.
Yeah.
The new subdivision is, yes, but isn't there some vacant land between that new subdivision and Green Street?
So it's a big detention pond between, so that's already in, basically the village line butts up to the back of the houses on Green Street.
Okay, that won't be an issue. That won't be an issue then, thanks.
And if they did annex, they couldn't just do half of that street. They have to go to the other side of the street typically.
Yes. Yes, I'm sure they'd want to do that, yep.
They could take the water main in like a utility easement from the homeowners too and not annex the properties. That's the hang up. So they could definitely take the maintenance of that water main if they wanted to after it's done.
And there's already
creative ways to do this.
There's a number of paper streets back there, so there's easements already.
Yeah. They're just not gonna want it unless they can get the right to maintain it and repair it, right?
Yeah.
That water main may spur some economic development or some future development of that.
It's awesome.
All these paper streets might be real streets. 4th Avenue, 3rd Avenue.
Well, I know like a lot of these KLM came in and they're developing a lot of those lots that were platted out for the other subdivision from 2007, 8.
Can I try something and see what happens? Make a motion that we fund Hebron Township Road District in the amount of $603,169.
I agree.
I'll second that if you don't have a second already.
Okay.
Discussion?
Should we, do we have more discussion?
I still feel like they need to have more skin in the game. I mean, they talked about, I think the roadway, they estimated would be about 93,000 of that. If I remember that correctly, I could be off.
Yeah, I believe that the road district can pony up some money. He didn't want to deal with the water.
He already is ponying up. That's his money, that the match is from his.
Oh, it's from his pocket?
Yeah, the road district is putting in nearly 11%, $74,000.
I would just, personally, I would increase that some. I'd like to see them put in probably twice that.
Okay, how about we work through the table then?
Well,
And
with all due respect, there's a motion on the floor.
okay,
I second.
You can withdraw.
so Larry said.
There's always
Well, I guess why don't we do a roll call then for
See who's
that
rules
motion?
All right. Paskey?
Yes.
Shu,
No.
Adamson,
No.
Moore,
Yes.
Grammer,
No.
Drefkorn,
No.
Hausman,
No.
Smith,
Yes.
Von Bergen,
Yes.
four yes, 5 no.
Okay.
So what do you do then?
So let's go to, then we have to decide what we want to give them.
Well, somebody's mentioned that they should have some skin in the game, and I just, what amount, is there an amount that somebody's thinking about? I've got in my notes that the water only is 250,000. Not that I want to break it up that much, but, what would skin in the game mean to whoever mentioned that? I'm sorry, I'm not there to hear it all, but.
Comfortable with 400 or 500,000 for this project?
Are you wanting more skin in the game from the road district or skin in the game from the village?
Or from the
From the balance, from the others.
Yeah, let them figure it out.
Because the match is from the road district, so that would be
Yeah,
them.
so maybe,
Yeah.
yeah.
At this point, I don't think you can tell the village to put skin in the game, so it would come from the homeowners, I believe.
And they're already covering the costs of repairs
Now they are, yeah.
right now, so. And it's not that nobody, that they don't already have some skin in the game, I don't mean that. But I'd be comfortable with, say, $500,000 from our funds, because it's also taking away from other asks. And that's my other concern, because I think there are some other worthy projects here as well.
Do you want to table this specific project and fully fund the other ones that there might be more grants towards and see what the remainder is?
I think we could probably finish this one.
We'd probably be okay with 500,000.
How about 550?
550,
If
right?
you plug in 550, and if we get to a point, we can go back and revisit.
Yeah, actually, I don't think we should just do direction until we get to a final total of everything, because we're gonna be moving things around.
Yeah, so we'll go through the table.
Yeah.
The rest of the table and then adjust if needed.
I think that's the wise thing to do, instead of putting it in stone here, and then we have to put another vote in to change that number, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we should just
So with that being
have
said,
Bill.
should we, were there any other projects that people would like to see fully funded?
Fully funded, but the Raintree Park thing or whatever, I wasn't excited about that. You know, with the amount of money we have, I would normally not have voted for anything on that one.
So that's would.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Okay.
It's not critical.
Okay.
Yep, we have a lot of,
I got that 0 on mine.
For the city of Woodstock.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I would say the same for the Boost program.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree on that as well.
Yeah.
Which one's that?
First.
Upward boost.
Upwards, big one. Or, I don't want to say, thank you.
Going the other direction, I think the critical home repair with Habitat for Humanity is important, and I would at least go to 60 on that, if not more.
The security system for the battered women, I think that would
So
be.
we're talking about Habitat.
So for Habitat for Humanity, when I was asking how much, per house, it's like 10,000 per house. So there's not a big bang for the buck in terms of places, the number of residents that are assisted.
So Larry said 60%? Did he say?
60,000.
60,000.
It said it's about $10,000 per house or something, per unit.
I could agree with the 60%.
Okay.
Is that gonna cause headaches for you if we don't fully fund something?
Both of them, yeah, it is.
That's tough.
I would highly and strongly encourage starting with fully funding and then doing the 60 out of the 100K at the end of it.
Brandon, to that point though, can more guidance be given to the applicants that there's not that much money available here? Because these applications are coming in for 50 to 70% of the allowable funds. I mean, they can apply for whatever they want, but understanding if that's the direction we're getting is to fund 100%, then these applications should be a lot smaller, right?
Some of them, yeah.
Because
Some
they
are.
do risk not being funded at all.
Right, I mean, if we're gonna go that route, there's gonna be a lot of them, right? Sorry,
Yeah,
yeah.
no,
You're right.
you're
So with
absolutely
not
right.
funding, not funding it all, can we talk about the Northern Marine Wastewater Reclamation District?
All right, let's go there.
Since that is self-funded, as we talked about, we're talking about property tax abatements, that we weren't charging the owners enough money to basically update their infrastructure.
So we're saying 0?
It's a nice project, I agree with Tracy. The funds, the charge that they're making to their residents is not enough. Although these are low-income residents too, so that's.
In Lakemore?
Well, in this district.
Oh.
These lift stations were in low to moderate income areas.
So has there been a suggestion?
So it's 0
I have
for
0 on my sheet.
Northern Marine.
Yeah. I think it's a worthy project, but yeah, there's some other issues.
Did you have a question, comment? For Northern Marine wastewater?
I'm fine with 0.
Okay.
I'm fine with 0.
I'd say an easy 100% would be Independence Health and Therapy, the kitchen appliance replacement. It's only 13,000.
That was rescinded.
Yeah, that was rescinded.
Oh,
Is it on here?
I didn't see it.
sorry, I still have it on there.
How about Turning Point? I'm in favor of full funding on that security system. I think that is another life safety issue,
I agree.
even if it's
Yes.
the women out back smoking their cigarettes need to get back in the building. But I think it's
I agree with you.
it's important for that building to be secure, especially a front door that's falling off the hinges.
I agree with that.
I agree.
Okay, yay.
Look it up. We are coming to consensus like we've done this before.
We'll tell IT.
Go to bed for me, Brandon.
We're gonna put in an application for a new house.
Compassion for campers and the Warp Core are almost doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how you want to do that.
I'd say 0 for compassion for campers. Warp Core seemed a little more, I like their model of having a store.
They have more of a,
And
They go out too.
yeah, they go out. Yeah, they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. And I, just from personal, family experience, it's nice if there is an organization that is there picking up the people from the bottom. A lot of these asks are for people who have already started to enter the system. These guys are really on the streets. I liked what they were doing.
That's
I-
what
That's more.
I like what they're doing. If I may interject, so I've been familiar with the Warp thing for a while. I think that what they do is good. Having the store at the metro station, Woodstock come down hard on the old fire station when the homeless people started hanging out in the neighborhoods there. And I don't see that they won't come down hard on that metro station program at some point too. And the other thing that concerns me about the Warp situation is their total budget of $155,000, and they started out as an outreach thing looking for $10,000 to deliver tents and backpacks. Now they have a $255,000 in salaries that they're paying out of that $455,000. And I'm not saying they don't deserve something to keep their program going, but the direction they're moving in is very concerning to me.
I'm not a fan of them.
So what would your suggestion be for Warp Core?
Are you asking me, Tracy?
Yes, sorry, Larry.
Okay, well, no, that's fine. That's fine, and once again, I apologize for not being able to be there. But could I get a little input from staff, because I think their original request was $30,000. Some of that was for salaries, and the director's son is now the business manager that collects a $63,000 a year salary, and so they changed their ask. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and so now we're assuming that if we give them any monies, that it's not going towards that person's salary, because that would be a conflict of interest for them.
Correct. They fully remove the salary piece from their ask, so this would just be the transportation and then supplies.
Okay.
Was it 5 for transportation and 10
Yeah, I think
for
so.
supplies?
Okay. Yeah, I'm open to other people's suggestion on that. It's not a huge ask. And if it's being used for the gas, et cetera, I mean, that's not all bad. So I'm open to whatever anybody else thinks on that. I put 0 to 15 on my sheet, so.
Great, Larry.
Small range.
Well, I just,
Go to the ceiling.
and that's where I'm at on that. So I'll open that up to anybody else wants to pitch in on it.
Larry, to your point there, I just was looking at their most recent audited financials dated December 31st, 23. Total salaries on that report is $171,698 for salaries.
Well, I went through their current app, and it had
And that
like
was from
55
23.
each. Yeah, for the outreach people, it was around 55 each. 2 of them at 55 and a 30, and I don't have it right in front of me. And then the director, Mr. Robert Mutert, was getting 60, and his son Clayton as business operations, 63. So I added that up to be 255. That's coming off their application
That's a lot of money.
for this grant.
What is everybody else?
Well, I'm in favor of doing 0 for work poor and 0 for compassion
I agree.
for campers. I had like 10 for work poor. I thought the project was nice. There's a lot of other needs.
Sarah, can you add up what the purple total ask is? Is it up there or not?
Oh, I did that this morning, about 298.
About 298? And we can allocate up to 210.
Are we,
You mean what's the total of the purple?
Yeah, the ask.
297, 852.
297, okay.
Pretty close.
so are we required to do 15% to public service, or are we just limited
You're
to?
limited.
I believe, so we don't have to do any,
Yeah.
but we're limited.
But we're
Yeah.
just limited,
Right.
okay.
I like that we can fully fund it also, because that helps in the books, apparently. But
Well, out of the purple, I have the wrong amount for veterans. It's 44. Where did I get?
44,932. You want to talk about that one?
For, yes.
I'm in favor of fully funding veteran support, Path to Hope for that one staff member at the outreach. I think they do great service for our veterans in the county, and they work well with the other agencies. And that was 44,932 was the ask.
I had it fully funded too.
Anybody else have them fully funded?
I agree.
I agree, yeah.
Okay, so let's do fully funding for that.
Oh, thank you.
I like the Elder Works, the Fellowship Housing Corp, and Home of Despero also. I would fully fund all of those.
I didn't hear all that, but from me, I like the Elderworks one too, and I had that fully funded. And Home of the Sparrow always does a good job. I think they're getting a little bit out there on from what their original mission was, but they do a good job with what they do with the money they have. So I have no problem with that one too.
That was kind of my only issue in the back of my mind.
Oh, with Home of Sparrow?
Yeah, they're getting spread a little thin, but they still do a great job.
Yeah, they do.
And they're a great organization, so. Are we interested in?
I would like to see Refuge for Women get some. I don't know about the full 60, but I'd like to see them get some.
I had 50.
I had them at 50% as well.
50% or 50?
50%? I had them at 50.
Yeah, I'd rather go with 50 myself.
Well, I got 12 grand to play with on my sheet. I'd give them $50.
General consensus for
Refuge
for women at 50,000?
I like it.
Sure.
I like it.
Yeah.
Larry?
I had it at 30,
They have
a little
other,
bit less.
yeah,
They
other
have
funding
a lot of
sources.
other funding sources.
Larry, you took the words right out of my mouth. Other funding sources, and this is for the
40?
director's salary.
40? Okay.
Go with 40?
40 compromise?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right.
Good.
Is it, question for staff, is it possible that these applicants amend their application? Or once it's submitted, it's submitted?
Yeah, we're hoping that once it's submitted. We've had this year, I don't know if Hans and Faith experienced it when they were working with the applicants, but we did have a lot of change of scope 2 weeks out and, full withdrawals. So These have been in place since January 14th. That was the time that they all submitted their application. I'm not sure what happened after that, but quite a few scope changes and things like that where we were tasked to reach out and then had to bother Tracy.
It would be really nice if we could not allow a lot of changes.
Yeah, I totally agree. That makes it difficult, really difficult.
And it might open the whole.
Yeah, open that
thing
slippery
up
slope.
to-
It's not fair to
No,
other
it's not.
organizations.
Because if everyone else thinks, it's done at, January 31st, and people go, well, so I don't think you should allow that.
Yeah, the other petitioners get impacted by that, sure.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, withdrawing an application is one thing.
Yeah.
Changing the scope, I think we should put a hard stop on that.
As much as
Going
we might
forward.
wanna see that, yeah.
I know, it's tough, but.
I mean, they have from October 1, we released the notice of funding till that January to brainstorm, and they can pick staff's brains and anything else.
And really, truly, they have more time because
Yeah.
you know this is gonna come up,
Right.
you know.
But I'm
just
sure
when
they're doing it in
opens.
January.
Exactly. When can we get next year?
Yeah.
So just so we're clear, did we agree to fully fund ElderWorks?
I do not agree with that.
Oh, I know, it's oh, it's not even updating in here, so that's weird.
Larry, what were you looking at for ElderWorks?
Yeah, I lost the sound there for a second, so I don't know what the other people said, but I had ElderWorks. Let me find it here. At 10 to 25. So I guess a little hard for me to read here. The request was 25?
Yes.
Yeah.
It sounded like, though, at her presentation, she thought that was the minimum ask.
Right, and my notes said they would be satisfied for something less.
Right.
So, that's another one where they help keep people in their homes. I think
Yeah.
that's a good, it's cheaper to keep people in their homes than build them new ones. I mean, we can see that we're putting down the board here.
Yeah.
So, I'm a fan of that one. I could see funding that in full.
I have them funded in full as well on my sheet.
I'm okay with that.
25 for ElderWorks?
I'm okay with it.
Start with that.
Okay.
$100,000 left for the purple.
Did we didn't do Home Sparrow, did we?
No, we did not.
No.
And Home the Sparrow had partially funding.
What do we want to do with Prairie State Legal? How about we talk about them to decide without a presentation what we,
I still thought it was a good project, So unfortunately, they weren't able to come here, but it's helpful to the community.
do you know what we did last year? I tried to find that.
Yeah, I tried to find it too, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, yeah.
Not off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly what we did.
It's a tough one because the housing advocacy.
That's right, so the staff.
Well, what is that?
They help people through bankruptcies and
Evictions.
Do they
some-
cover the services or
They do.
they cover the services?
I don't remember how many people they service with that, though. That's what I don't. I mean, applications.
That's another one where they're keeping people in their homes
Right.
and helping them.
Right.
So, obviously you guys probably got a feeling that those are the ones that I sort of lean towards to keep people in their homes because I think you get a good value.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see them get something,
Me too.
even though they were not here.
20.
Okay, 20,
We could go 20.
20.
20.
Do I hear 15?
20.
So the credit counseling, I didn't see a huge need for paying for credit counseling. I'm not as familiar with how they help. But
They also help keep people in their homes,
Yeah.
teach them how
have you
to
worked with
budget.
Have you worked with them before?
They've been here for a long
Oh,
time.
okay. That's why I'm asking because.
Yeah.
Frequent flyer.
Yeah,
Okay.
frequent flyer,
And it's-
exactly.
Not
And
a
that's
huge
They're a good
ask.
Yeah,
They're a good organization, and I think, I think they're very worthwhile too. And their ask is quite modest.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're providing 8 times that amount from their own funding
Right.
source.
So 100% funding?
yeah, for
10
10.
grand? Yeah.
I don't think that's,
What are we up to now?
70,000 left over for the public service for both.
We don't it can go into the other areas, so we're not required
Right.
Right.
to use
Yeah.
that.
So do we have any no's in this
So-
section that we could rule out? Like compassion for campers? What's everyone's thought on that?
That was a
I
no, I
think we
think.
gave them like
It was
12 or something last year.
small amount
It
last year.
wasn't much. But I think Home of the Sparrow, we should probably decide.
That's 2
if we
salaries.
want that.
Do we just fund 1 salary? That was 2 different positions that they were asking for. Help with, I should say, help with the positions.
Larry, did you have Home of the Sparrow in its full funding?
I did, but with the idea that we're funding some of these other ones, I guess the direction that to full fund some of these a little bit more, I'm not sure if Home of the Sparrow is going to be able to get their full funding out of this when it's all over with. But I did have them at full funding because they're just a good organization. Even though I feel like they've gotten off their mission a little bit.
How top
It's
heavy
still
is
good.
their salary becoming of their organization? Do you guys know?
I do not without looking at the audit off the top of my head.
I mean, I tend to, I guess, look at salary structures at a lot of these, but sometimes the salary is the product. So in the public service sector, I sometimes don't weigh that as much, just because that is kind of their mission.
I think their track record says a lot also. I mean, they've had a really strong track record for a long time.
This particular project, I think they took on, somebody has to do it within the county. And
I think that's what they do.
You know,
Yeah,
they
that's what it
took
seems
this
like, here's
project
what they're
on,
doing.
not necessarily for themselves, but to help the county out, because they have the capacity to do it. So, but the benefits are beyond Home of the Sparrow. It helps a lot of the agencies in the county, so. And I'd say we have to fund them in full, but I think we should fund them in some fashion.
Say 50?
I think if we're gonna get that close, we might as well just
Fully fund it,
fully
finish?
fund,
Yeah.
Okay.
just so we
I
can
think-
check that box.
I think Home of the Sparrow has lots of other funding opportunities, especially through the mental health board, et cetera. So I don't know that, that we have to go full with them. I think they'll figure out a way to get their case management services done, even if we'd go like at a 50% or whatever.
Do we know the breakdown of the position costs?
I have for the landlord engagement, 29,920, and for the rapid rehousing management, 26,000. Do you fund one and not the other? Or do you split it and fund partial?
I like the idea of funding one and putting it in there at about 30,000.
That sounds good.
30,000?
That would be my suggestion, yes.
I think there's a general consensus on that, so that's what we'll do.
Do we move up the chart and come back to the, I mean, we don't have to spend it all down there.
Right,
Right.
exactly. I think
We can spend it somewhere else too.
can, yes.
So can I
I like the idea. I like the idea of moving up the chart.
Can we talk about the senior services building, the renovations? That was the boiler and the windows.
So that seemed really important.
And the windows seem to be really bad. Which one is that?
Clearbrook, right?
No, senior
No?
services.
Senior services.
Oh,
It's in the
senior
blue.
services,
It's in
sorry.
the
Crystal
blue.
Lake
Yeah.
Senior Citizen renovation.
And about 20 new windows.
And I'm estimating, I was estimating, 2,000, 2,500 a window, somewhere in that range.
Yeah,
Having gotten estimates on windows, so.
they're not cheap.
So maybe $40,000 to
I
$50,000.
know what more modern windows cost. Yeah, I thought 2,000, 2,500 was probably made a lot of sense. Because you're pretty much going to be pulling out wood and replacing it with more modern materials, which is going to be a little bit of a custom work.
Was that the one with the boiler?
Yes, so they had, for the windows, they had 33,970 for window ask.
I think, Larry, I think it was you that discussed, was it you that discussed?
Oh, the forced air versus boiler?
Replacement, given that?
Yeah, I do think that it'd be way more reasonable way for them to go. I do have my notes here that they were prioritizing the windows.
Yeah,
So that's,
So thanks.
I think it's a good organization. I would have been a lot happier if they would have come in with not replacing a boiler and putting, they might, the boiler and air handler was 45,000. I think that's,
oh my God.
within that type of building, that's way over
Dangerous.
Yeah,
what it should be. So,
I suggest we just do the windows.
So was that like 34,000?
30, yeah, close to 34.
I think they're light on that, but.
Well, and, well, then we'll give them 34, because they said the price, with tariffs, who knows what those windows are gonna
Did
cost
they
in
say though the
October.
boiler couldn't be repaired anymore?
They're replacing
They
it,
can be.
but why
it
can't
can
they
be
replace it
repaired.
with a decent
Right.
furnace?
It can be repaired, it's awfully expensive. Haven't been an
The
organization
boiler must,
that replaced the
the
boiler.
boiler must work okay, because they prioritize the windows. I mean, the
Yeah.
boiler wasn't working at all.
Well, the windows
They
are
would have
like
to-
falling apart, totally falling
The
apart,
windowsills look rotten.
yeah.
Okay, so 34,000.
34 on the senior service.
Okay.
I think, Robert, I think you're right.
Okay.
They're under, they don't have enough in there for windows, especially given, I think they're, but that's probably a good place to start. Just make it rounded to 35.
35?
35.
Oh. Maybe that'll help with the tariff.
I think that's a good idea, with the idea that if there's some monies left over that we're looking for a spot, that maybe we could figure out I know somewhere in here they had a price for their furnaces and air conditioning. So instead of the 45 for the boiler, add in a furnace and air conditioning cost, if there's monies left over at some point.
We'll come
And of
back.
course, if any of the projects come in under, we sweep it back and put it in for next year, so.
How about Pioneer Center? I had them as one that I would fully fund, but
Oh, the Jackson?
I fully funded it,
Pioneer Center?
yeah,
For the group home?
correct. I had it marked down on my sheet, fully funded.
Flooring, bathroom, ramp, kitchen.
Safety issues.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
And they retracted one of their other asks, so they could prioritize this.
That's right.
Yep.
We said that.
Larry?
Greater Family Health.
Yeah, they do.
I had them at about 50%, so they could either do the bathroom projects or the HVAC.
Oh, that's right. They got bathrooms and more furnaces.
Right, maybe that's where I seen the cost of the furnaces.
So I got
Got too much paper.
$15,000 per bathroom,
Yeah.
and I got 75,000.
Matches my notes.
Oh, yeah, right, yep.
This is the medical center, like right behind the new Starbucks.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
By Mercy.
That's right. Although I do have a note here that he told us HVAC is a priority.
Yeah, I've got one, number 1 on the HVAC and 2 on the
Restrooms are
bathrooms.
aesthetic need versus an operational need.
So how much was the HVAC?
I have my notes that he said 101 for the HVAC, and that was,
That's what I have.
and that was the priority. But their ask was about 2/3 of what it was gonna cost for this total project. So it would seem to me that if we're gonna prioritize the HVAC, and he was saying 101, that we could do 60 or 70, they would have their 2/3.
Yeah, that's where I came up with the 75.
I have 15 bathrooms at 15,000 a bathroom. Why don't we give them 75 for the HVAC?
I think it was 5 bathrooms.
Was it?
It was.
Yeah.
Not
Six
Oh.
HVAC units, I had 101 like Larry did, 176,000 total. Their ask was 106, so there's a portion that they're gonna fund themselves.
Yeah, I'd say 65
Give them half?
for HVAC. Because they're gonna fund a good chunk of that themselves, a third.
Yeah, that's the notes I had. Their ask was about 2/3 of the total.
Yes.
And so 2/3 of the 101 for HVAC, which is their priority, would be 66, 67, 70,000, somewhere in that neighborhood.
So we're saying like 70?
70 for them?
Is that reasonable?
I think they could do a lot with that because they have, their other funding sources, match leverage, whatever you want to call it, is about 70,600 according to their paperwork here. So they could probably do their HVAC and to get a couple bathrooms redone.
At the moment, we have, what, 284,000 remaining?
244.
244.
Well, there's 40.
Oh, I'm
in
sorry,
there.
yes, 284.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
Did we talk about Village of McCollum, the Spring Road improvements?
We
That's
haven't-
another big one.
We haven't talked about either Wonder Lake or
I don't know how we could do,
Column Lake.
I don't know how we could do any of those.
No, McCollum Lake got money last year.
Yeah.
So 0 for McCollum?
Or,
Is there any we can zero out? Like, did we?
Can we
say-
finish up Greater Family Health before we move on, or?
well, we're trying to make sure that,
Oh, make sure there's money for the bigger projects?
or at least we could
Deal with
not have to consider those.
Get them off the ledger.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Lakeshore Drive done in Wonder Lake to finish off that, what they started a couple of years ago.
That's the one with all the potholes and.
Yeah, but that's not the whole project, that's just Lakeshore. To finish off Lakeshore.
It didn't get funded last year.
No, we didn't get it all last year.
That one's 218,
To how much?
218.
Oh,
For the Wonder.
Yeah, 35.
Wait, sorry, what was that? I thought it was 604, it's almost 605.
they had it broken down by streets. So they had east.
East Lake Shore is 218. Back Bay
Oh.
Road is 156, and Marblehead Road is 270,000.
Plus they had like 30% on contingency and engineering. They could pick up some.
And Lakeshore was their priority.
Yeah, 218 there.
So the Village of Wonder Lake, do they get money from the Illinois Transportation Fund motor vehicle tax?
Yeah, they do,
They get, yeah.
based on population. not based on miles, so it's a little tough for some of these smaller towns.
They'll be back next year for the other parts.
Yeah.
And they were here last year and didn't select them
We
last year.
we zeroed out last year for Wonder Lake.
Yeah, we did.
Meaning they
Because the
completed,
year before,
They got half a road the year before.
yeah.
How much was Wonder Lake to finish Lake Shore Drive, the one part there?
It was 218, that was before engineering contingency. That's what they had their construction number.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
And that's a main chunk of that roadway, right?
So does the 218 then consider their match?
No, that would probably be the engineering side. So they got 15% contingency, 15% engineering. They're probably doing the 15% engineering on their match, I would imagine. Just to keep the job moving faster.
So to do that, what would you put that number at?
Do the 218.
Do the 218?
218?
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, yeah.
so then we're down to 30,000 if we do 218.
But, yeah.
Do you want me to put 218 up?
Yeah, see what it falls down to.
And this is Wonder Lake, correct?
Yeah. We're at 66.
What do you think about Wonder Lake, Larry?
Actually, you're at 26 because you've already allocated out almost 1.1 million.
But what about the 40 below it?
The 40 is just showing that if you wanted to allocate more towards it, that's what's the remainder of the cap. But really, this is
15% cap.
Yeah.
So it's the smaller of those numbers.
Mm-hmm. So if we needed to go into public services, you can only allocate the 40,000, but you've already allocated $1,093,000.
Can't we use that 40 for above that?
The 40 is included in the yellow.
Mhm.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was realizing as the spreadsheet was going, yeah. Mhm.
So we're out of money?
26 left. And for Home of the Sparrow, just so when I write their agreement, the 30,000 is covering which of the two positions?
I think it's the
Um,
landlord.
Landlord liaison?
yeah, I think that was 29.
Brandon, could you put zeros in where we put zeros?
I've a great amount where we put them in. If I type
Oh,
0, it
gotcha.
just leaves it
Okay.
as the dash.
Okay.
So the gray ones we've discussed as zeroing out, and then the other ones that have dashes that are white, we haven't discussed yet.
So do we
So
agree?
if we do the Village of Wonder Lake, we basically got almost nothing left.
26.
26,000.
Did we zero out McCollum Lake, Spring Road?
Yeah.
Improvements?
But we haven't even talked about Habitat
Right.
or Clearbrook.
Right.
So McCollum Lake is zero, you said?
McCollum Lake, yeah, it sounds like zeroed out. And then 218 for Wonder Lake.
So Greater Health, where was that at?
Greater Health is, we were left it as the 70,000 we were kind of debating on, but.
But there's nothing.
We never put anything in there.
Yeah, we didn't put anything in.
Well, to do greater health and something for humanity, we might have to cut back on the Wonder Lake.
That's kind of where I'm at too, even though it's a good project, I mean, I don't know.
I know we've talked about Turning Point. they do have other, they do fundraisers, they do a lot of things like that too. I'm not sure that I know that's an all or nothing project.
I think we fund
And
that,
it's
that's
not
security.
huge. I think they're gonna get the money anyway.
You're going backwards.
I know. Sorry.
How are you doing?
Compassion for Campers, did we zero that out?
There's nothing there right now.
And for zero on that.
I had that for 0.
I have that for 0 on my sheet as well.
I did too.
At least clean up the spreadsheet a little bit.
How about
Four
warp?
zeros.
Didn't we do warp zero?
0 for warp 2.
I think so.
Did we?
I like Warp.
I like it too. We'll see what kind of money is in total.
How about 10
Yeah, 10's fine.
10 for what, warp?
for Warp?
Or Warp.
Okay.
Or even 7,500 to,
Do you want that to be free reign on the agency to decide, or do you want the 10,000 to be the camping equipment? Because it's a 10,000 camping, 5,000 for transportation. So with the $10,000, do you want it to be 5 and 5, all 10?
What's easier?
Either way is fine for us.
Like 15,000 is easiest on that.
Yeah, 15 would be even better, but.
I mean,
Yeah, that's
I
just
like
a-
that it's going towards supplies. And I know they gotta get the supplies to the people, but
So we're
All
fully
just supplies.
10 for
10.
supplies.
10 supplies.
Supplies.
to 10.
That's what I'm hearing.
for warp.
They also got a $355,000 grant from the mental health board for supplies, et
Oh, they
cetera.
did?
Mm.
Mhm.
Oh, good point.
Yeah, no, I say zero.
Yeah. give it
Because they got
nice.
that big chunk of.
All right.
No.
Okay,
No.
zero.
All right.
Yeah.
We're going down to 0?
Yeah.
Zero.
Okay.
For
For warp.
So,
Compassion for campers.
Tide changes quick.
Could
My grandma
we
says
put
it when it
could we
turns.
put $60,000 in for Habitat for Humanity, 60,000? And I know that's gonna put us in a negative, but then, see where we wanna get it from, or does somebody else have a different number for that?
Where's Habitat?
The yellow.
Yellow.
I think that one's really huge because that, again, is keeping people in their homes.
Right.
So where'd you come up with that number of 60,000, Larry?
Because I don't think we're gonna be able to get 100 from other places. It's really pulling
Yeah, about
out of the
$10,000.
hat, to tell you the truth. If we had the money, I would put 100 there.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had that one on my list.
So
It's fully
60 for
funded.
Habitat?
Yeah, putting that in puts us at a $33,500 deficit, Larry.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna still go back to that. I think we gotta chisel on that Wonder Lake one somehow.
I think we got a chisel on Hebron.
I'm just afraid Hebron is not, it's sort of like a one road project where Wonder Lake has 3 different options.
So is the 218 for more than one road for Wonder Lake?
No,
That's one
Oh,
road.
that's just one road.
That was a priority road.
Right.
It's for one road and the one that they would like to prioritize. But they did have other roads that they could do. And I don't remember the dollar amounts for the other roads, or if I have them.
The next lowest, Larry, is $156,081. That's for Back Bay Road.
Okay. Would it be reasonable to go that number so they could do Back Bay Road? Or they have other funds, they can prioritize Lake Shore if they want to?
Sounds like they're gonna do Lake Shore no matter what first. But we don't have anything in there for,
It's part of it.
for the health center either. We talked about doing something in there.
If we did Back Bay Road at 156, that puts us back in the positive at 28,367.
Say that again?
If we funded Wonder Lake for Back Bay Road at 156,081, it puts us back with 28,367 to spend.
Oh, extra.
Sure. Okay.
Do you want me to put that up?
I'm just reading what my Excel's telling me.
You said 156,081?
Yeah. And then that would be for Back Bay Road.
We really have to watch this, it's like,
I know.
take some numbers and some not.
So we're at 28.
Yeah, 28,367 left.
Did we,
And also for the new members, if we don't fully allocate, it just goes into next year's allocation.
But we're also working with the 1.4 number.
Mm-hmm.
That we may not
Technically,
get,
one point.
that we may not get.
Yeah, we didn't get that.
Right.
So
Did you have to go back and redo?
No, we just take these, if it's 10% less, I think we just chop 10% off.
Yeah, I just bring everybody down.
Mhm.
Or up if we end up getting good news.
so do we have thoughts on Pearl Street? I still don't like the cost of the units. I would say 0.
So we did 100,000 for a home grant.
unfortunately, we just don't,
Yeah.
we just don't have it.
Don't have it.
No.
Exactly. As worthy as it is, 100,000 towards $6 million project is not a lot.
Get closer.
Make it $3.
So we're saying 0 on the CDG for Pearl Street?
That's my thought.
Yeah.
Based on
Unfortunately, I
funding
think
availability.
that's the way it's looking.
And the Clearbrook acquisition? I don't see how we can do that.
And I think that's an all or nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wish we had a blank check.
We did during the pandemic.
Yeah, boy, did we.
They're just giving money.
We were like drunken
Man,
sailors in
yeah,
this
too
river.
much money.
Wow.
Okay, so 0 for Clearbrook,
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay. And then Larry, what did you have for full circles, the full street?
Pearl Street, I'm not a fan of that in any which direction because of the costs per unit, and I have a 0. And I wish there was a way we could move money from the homes program away from that too. So that's my negativity there.
Okay. So if we put 0 in there, that brings us back to greater family health, because I don't think we had anything plugged in for that, did we?
I would do 70 there and then take the difference out of Hebron.
But again, we're back to Hebron, we can't finish it.
I don't.
Well, I don't know, I just think the road district can finish it myself.
Well, we've already given them a haircut under their ask
Yeah.
with the hopes that they can come up with that.
Yeah, you're in a small town, you're in a small township that, if you could talk to the township guy, he's gonna tell you they don't have any money. They're very,
I know what his budget is, and it's,
Well, they could do the water main,
They have to
and they could do
both.
half the road, like we're asking these other places to do half the road.
That's really one that's all or
But-
nothing now.
they're at least getting
So,
the road done, whereas this would be not even a road for.
Did we talk about fellowship housing?
We have.
That's for 22.
They're new, aren't they? Is that the first time they've come to us?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Well, that's for the single moms.
Correct.
Yeah.
What exactly was the 22,000 going for?
It was for, I wrote salaries,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
case management,
Yeah.
more case management.
Yeah, I'd
I'd rather see that
I'd rather see it elsewhere.
develop.
If I may, on the Greater Family Health, their priority was the HVAC units at 100,000. And in their literature, they say they have 70,000 of matching leverage, other things, wherever, other monies. So if we did the 28 along with the 70 that they already have, they would be very close to getting their HVAC units done.
But we don't have that much funds, we don't have 28,000.
Yeah, but they have 70,
Oh, with their 70?
with their 70.
With their 70, they
Okay,
have.
okay.
Somewhere in here, it says that they have 70 match leverage. I'm not finding it right away, but between that match leverage that they have and the 28, it'd be real close to their HVAC systems getting done.
Okay.
Yeah, there are other fund sources, match leverage, 70,674. So that would put them right up around 100, which is what they were talking about, HVAC units.
That makes sense.
So plug in the.
Plug in the balance?
Yep.
Yep.
And that means the housing corporation, fellowship housing, there's not much we can do. There it is.
What is it, 28,367?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like the Fellowship Housing Corporation. I can't say that I don't, but there are several, whether it's consumer credit or Home of the Sparrow, there's several organizations
Other counseling.
that help with with the counseling and financial management and et cetera.
Yeah.
So if they didn't get anything, that's unfortunate, but I could live with it.
I agree. And we're zero.
So I want to ask the staff, is this a concern that we're not fully funding too much? Is that gonna look bad?
No,
You know what
this
I'm
is
saying?
okay, yeah. It's really just to have such a wide portfolio that it makes monitoring each individual project tough to do. when
Right.
We already have reduced staff than from last year.
Right.
So zeroing out the grays right now is helpful on
your side.
Yeah, because then we have the capacity to monitor these
Right.
programs. And it begs, we do have still portfolios from like the 2-year grants that Home are, so we still have last
So
year's.
those you're
and-
working on.
Yeah, and even prior years that still are coming in.
So moving forward, then, is it fair to limit groups on
On their ask?
on lumping asks together? So we've got windows and a HVAC, and we've got, you know, some of the other projects that are
roads.
3 different things that really don't, you know, it's not like a full kitchen or a full bathroom, but.
So that way we could complete a portion if we give a portion funding, rather than they ask for 300,000, we're only gonna fund 1,000, so it looks bad for us. That makes sense?
Yes, that's kind of
Because
what
then
I'm
we can
getting
show,
at.
we can
Yeah.
show 100%.
So then we can fully fund
Yeah.
and.
I like
It'd
that
be
rather
helpful.
than.
Well, the infrastructure projects are always gonna be huge.
Always
It's just, we
But
can't,
can't they break those
we can't get away
out
from it.
within-
They break it down, they broke it down on their spreadsheet,
Right.
so, but I think they have to, I think we can't cap the infrastructure.
Right.
I think
So are
if
you-
for one street though, sorry.
Both your shoes are on
Instead of
tight.
3, that would make life easier.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, I saw your feet.
Maybe a little
I would
tighter.
trip.
So I mean, I
But
think,
then they look at it as it's cheaper to go in and do 3 rather than 1. But if they
Well, in
could
the long
fund
run,
the
yeah.
other one,
Yeah.
that would make the probability of them getting any funding.
Because we're assuming a lot of road district financing here, correct? don't they have the ability to go down to the state and get more money for the road district? No?
No.
They would
It's
try,
just-
they would try.
Yeah.
We've always had road and water main issues.
Right.
It's a low tax fuel, I can
Yeah.
remember. It's
Yeah.
based on the population,
It is.
right? Yeah.
Well,
For the
cities,
village,
the
for the-
villages
yeah.
are population.
For
Townships,
unincorporated, it's
mileage.
miles.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
It's for the base.
Yeah, I mean, that increases every year, but
Not
so
enough.
do road costs.
Yeah, yeah.
They could bond and take that if they want, but that's not always popular.
So to do what you're asking, would we be asking them to do multiple applications?
Are they allowed to do that?
Because
Yeah.
That would make more
otherwise,
sense.
otherwise they're not gonna get fully.
Well, that's
as
what
far as
Pioneer
this
did at one
goes,
time, and
it's
they
not
had
gonna
like,
be
oh, it was
fully funded, it's gonna be
not
less.
good. It was
Oh,
not
was
good.
not good?
They had like
Six
I
five
guess
different
that's-
asks.
That's
I was like,
why,
ugh.
that's why I'm throwing it out there,
Yeah,
is to talk it through to see
Yeah, I remember that, and it was
what makes
not
sense.
good.
Okay,
We did limit it to 2 during Hans's time.
okay.
And so this is the result of 2, which is why Pioneer pulled their 1. They didn't want to move forward with finding a staff member for that overnight shelter staff.
Right.
So, still a concern on our end. I think a shelter needs 2 people for security purposes. So that was a
Or at least
finding on
one
the,
person?
yeah, that was a
Finding.
finding for the continuum of care program. We monitored them and this was their result to curing that finding or remedying that finding. So with them pulling the application, they now still have a finding for that program.
Are there any other suggestions on how to, I don't wanna say limit the ask, but to make it more comprehensive in what they're asking for?
I think it's reasonable to ask them for, even if it's just a single application, to provide a breakdown of specific projects, if there are multiple
Yeah, like windows,
projects
HVAC,
in the application.
yeah.
And it may not look good on the fully fund side of it, but it does help us.
Yeah, I think it helps us with priorities.
I mean, how many points are we
Yeah.
losing for not fully funding?
We're not, it really, the
I mean,
fully
is it-
funding isn't,
Is it
it's
we
more
don't
of HUD's
complete it?
concern on us that we have the capacity to monitor the projects
Oh, is
that are
that, oh, is
coming
that
up.
what it is, the
Yes.
monitoring?
And so it's so us going out
Okay.
to do the monitoring slash
Okay.
auditing, however you kind of want to call it, and requesting client files and going through them, looking through their audits and things like that. That's more of HUD's concern in the past, is that our team was smaller to see like 40 projects coming out every year.
Gotcha.
That was their concern.
Okay.
So like having the project of, like Homa Espero's case, landlord liaison versus the other one, fully funding the landlord liaison project is fine, because that's just one project now coming out of it, so that's okay. It was just more of their end to kind of nip having every applicant receive some sort of funding.
Okay.
They just wanted to kind of zero in and say, make a big splash in infrastructure this
Yeah,
year. So
yeah.
maybe fully fund infrastructure all this year, and then next year maybe go public facility and housing only. And that's something that
We
we've
were talking about.
talked about with the consolidated plan, is
Gotcha.
that maybe one year we only allow infrastructure projects. That way we can really put all the funding towards a big improvement for an area, and then next year allow like public facility and housing and economic development projects or something like that. I think public services should always be accepted because it's only 20% of the cap anyway. But definitely for the other ones, that's
kinda like
just kind
that
of what we were
idea
thinking.
myself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's hard to ask them to limit their ask, because they don't know
Yeah.
who else is asking and what the amounts available are, or
Mhm.
any of that, so.
That way you're also comparing apples to apples.
Yeah.
Versus
Exactly.
a road versus a group home.
Yeah.
Versus salary.
Versus a
Yeah.
salary. We just thought it might make it easier.
Okay,
I have a question, if I could interject.
yes,
The Full Circle Pearl Street on the homes part of it, we sort of, threw $100,000 at that, I believe, just because it was there. Is that the proper thing to do, or do we not want to tie that up and have it available for next year? 'Cause if they don't go through with that program, is it tied up with them if they accept it, or could you help us out with that, staff?
Yeah, it would be tied up to their project, and then if Jordan was to let us know that they couldn't use the funding, then we would recoup it.
So there's no harm in leaving it there, in a sense.
And usually
Does it-
for developers, IDA, which is the tax credit that usually all of them apply to make these affordable housing developments affordable, is they like to see community dollars being put towards the project. So when developments come in, kind of the more that we can put to back them up makes them more tasty for IDA to say you have community support, you know, they're granting you X amount of funding, so it actually gives them additional points on their IDA application to secure those tax credits, correct?
Okay. Well, okay, and under that circumstance, I guess there's no harm to leave it there. Thanks.
I guess, piggybacking on that question, Larry, to staff, if the project did not go through and that money was then made available, would you prefer to have direction from us on where that money is supposed to go now, or would you prefer to do another round of funding applications for that money?
I guess I'd leave that to you.
We've done it both ways.
Yeah, we have.
I guess I'd err on rolling it into next year if we need
It's
to.
only 100,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would say roll it, because we've had funds before from the year before that we didn't spend.
yeah. And CDBG and home, it's 7 and 6 years to fully spend that year's allocation. So of course, we get a timeliness test that we have to see 70% of it spent out that year. So we can roll over a little bit if need be, but
Not
we are,
too much.
required under the timeliness test from HUD that if the grant has too much money available in it, halfway through the year, we get dinged for that.
Yeah.
Could we say if the Pearl Street project doesn't go forward, that 100,000 goes to Habitat?
You can make that.
I think
That would be good by me.
I like that.
Okay.
I would give it to Habitat right now, but I could live with that suggestion too.
Did we roll call the home vote already? So we'd have to make
We
another
did, we
motion
voted
to-
on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
We did, but
We can make a motion for that contingency, so you're still leaving the finances the same.
Yes.
So.
do you want to do that, Larry?
I'll that's a motion from Larry that if funds are swept back, that they go to Habitat for Humanity,
For critical home repair.
for critical,
Housing for sustainable.
For new housing.
It has to
Oh,
go
for
to-
new housing, oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It has to go to the Trinity.
Oh, okay.
Has to go to Trinity
Okay. Oh, we have to keep it in that,
Mhm.
you're right.
yeah. So is there a second?
I'll second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just read New Directions. I meant to say
Okay.
Trinity Trail.
Okay, so with that, we'll do a roll call also, please.
Askey,
Yes. How am I supposed to answer?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Adamson.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, yes or, sorry.
Moore,
Yes.
Grammer,
Yes.
Drafcorn,
Yes.
Hausman,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Von Bergen.
Yes.
Or if you're a little excited, the A's and nays are always fun to hear too.
Okay, are there any more discussions on the BBG table? If not, I would ask for a motion to,
I'll make a motion to
okay,
approve funding as
Mr.
presented.
Grammer makes the
Second.
motion. Mr. Adamson seconds.
Try to blow this up a little bit more for you.
Do we want to read them off individually, or can we motion to approve the table?
I will be abstaining from the Village of Wonder Lake.
Okay.
And I'll
So-
abstain from consumer credit.
And I think that's why we had to do
Yeah,
individual roll
yeah.
call.
We gotta pull those two.
So
They got a
let's
conflict
pull those two.
Sure.
So
on
pull
that item.
Wonder Lake and
Consumer credit.
consumer credit.
Yeah.
So can I get a motion to approve the other funding amounts?
The others.
So Mr. Grammer?
Yep.
And Mr. Adamson?
Yes.
Okay. So roll call, please.
Askey,
Yes.
Shu,
Yes.
Adamson,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Grammer,
Yes.
Drafcorn,
Yes.
Hausman,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Von Bergen.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Could I get a motion to approve the Village of Wonder Lake,
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
and a second by Mr. Huntsman. And another roll call, please.
Paskey,
Yes.
Shu,
Yes.
Adamson,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Grammer,
Yes.
Draftcorn,
Abstain.
Hausman,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Von Bergen.
Yes. Lastly, a motion for consumer credit
So moved.
counseling. Ms. Draftcorn, seconded by Mr. Grammer.
Yep.
And another roll call,
Yeah,
please.
right.
Paskey,
Yes.
Shu,
Yes.
Adamson,
Abstain.
Moore,
Yes.
Grammer,
Yes.
Draftcorn,
Yes.
Hausman,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Von Bergen.
Yes. All right.
And I will send this final sheet to you all,
Great.
probably later today.
Was this typical?
I would say yes.
Okay, so how about,
And then just a quick thing just for you, we go to, we did a quick little funding sheet all the way at the bottom. So this is the county website, community development. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, here's all of our funded projects from 2020,
Oh, I love
2021,
that.
2, 3.
looking for that.
Yes. Oh, I like that a lot.
I was going through all the minutes, all the.
Ding, 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 this is great.
So this is just how everybody was
wonderful.
funded in the past. And you can see,
Okay.
and this is where kind of HUD's like, this is a lot of projects, but all worthwhile and everything,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course,
Okay.
so.
Okay,
You can kind of see the history.
That's,
yeah, that's nice.
yeah, that's nice.
Thank you. for
So
doing
we'll
that.
work on 2024 right now too, but this was 2025.
Yeah, I like
today.
that.
But just so you guys all have it in case you wanna review it, and I can go back with this little.
When are you gonna have that up?
This afternoon?
I'm hopefully by the end of either this week, but definitely by the end of next week.
Oh, great.
Mhm.
And we just have that one other with Independence Health.
Mm.
So they,
Yeah, what happened there?
they asked for several projects last year. One was replacing some concrete. But this year they were gonna ask for appliance replacement, for their therapy center. So what they're asking now is, they pulled that application for this year and they want to, have that funding be used for the appliances for their 2024 instead of the concrete, is what they're requesting.
Oh, they didn't do the concrete yet then?
No.
Did something happen to their appliances that they're,
They're just claiming that they're old and need
More of an urgent need is what they.
more of an urgent.
Oh, then the concrete.
Than the concrete.
And the
So
one,
it was
the one is the
approved
dish.
previously,
For a
Something
concrete
else.
project.
and now they want to flip it to a different.
It's a different
It's
project.
roughly the same cost,
Same cost.
the concrete and the appliances, but of course then there's the lovely dishwasher that HUD, you know, has regulations around,
Dishwashers?
yes,
Wow.
and washers and dryers,
More appliances need to be reasonable.
yes.
Pre-tariff pricing.
Mhm.
Where are you gonna find that?
That's.
They've left for the communities to
Yeah.
decide.
What's reasonable,
and it's 57?
$5,300 dishwasher, I think.
For a commercial kitchen or?
It's a commercial grade dishwasher. The example that I kind of gave Tracy was like if it was a home, they might pay for, you know, a GE but they're not gonna pay for a
Are they allowed to
Wolf or a
buy like
Sub-Zero or something. Like that's
refurbished?
kind of the analogy I gave her.
No, ISB new.
And we were hoping to kind of set precedent for these types of requests,
Yes.
either a letter or they appear before you guys and kind of explain some of these questions. As staff, we don't
More formal.
know why that was the urgent need. It was just a request through email. So we were kind of also looking for guidance on if something like this was to happen with another project, would we like a formal
It's
letter?
happened
and-
before.
Yeah.
It's happened before.
Mhm.
I know it has.
I think you
Or
limited
come
it.
before
Not very
you
often.
know, or come before you and explain,
Mhm.
you know, because we don't have all the
nitty-gritty.
I limit it by
details.
dollar amount. I mean, if it's under $5,000, then I think a meeting like this is fine. But having them come in and do all that might be a little overkill for a small change.
It would be a full, they're not just a $5,000 project, it'd be their whole project of.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying if we're trying to set a precedent,
Mm-hmm.
I think there'd be a dollar.
I think a request in writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we've done it by email
At least,
too,
yeah.
sometimes. You know, do you agree with this change of project? I think we've done that before too.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yes, not just an email thing.
Do you want us to request a letter from them by
Yeah,
email and then
with
send it
some
out to you all?
details. Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
How much money are we talking about in this case?
A little over 13,000.
That's a lot.
Because the change could be something that we didn't want to
Exactly.
fund originally.
Yes, that's what
Yeah,
our.
that's true.
Yeah, that was our reasoning for it. We understand the change of scope, but the commission presented it on project A. We
Right.
can't just say project B would have gotten that funding if it was part of the round.
Can that get us into trouble with HUD?
No, that's okay. They're both eligible projects for the funding.
So then you'll be looking for a response from each of us to go ahead with that change then?
Yeah, if we wanna, if we're able to do it today, that would be easier for us to let them know, or we can ask for a letter, have them draft it, and then send it through email for you guys to review and then give your opinion. Either or.
I think I personally think for this project and in the dollar amount that it's fine, let them change it in this instance. But, you know, going forward, it's always nice to have a formal letter.
General consensus.
I would like
So
a
they're
letter.
going from concrete to appliances?
I would like a letter.
I agree.
I mean, you don't have all the details.
Yeah.
I think we need
I don't
more
think we do it
details.
by email.
Let's get a letter with some details and then we'll all respond separately.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. Okay.
And then just remember
Okay.
the dishwasher.
Yeah.
The
If you
what?
feel that, if you feel the dishwasher is reasonable, you've got to do kind of a reasonableness test with it.
Gotcha.
Mhm. And we'll ask for that in the letter with
Yes.
exactly all the appliance amounts are.
Who's this for again?
Independence Health and Therapy.
You have a good track record with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a good organization. Okay, do we have any other member comments or miscellaneous? Anything?
What's our schedule for the rest of the year? Do you have that handy?
I don't right now.
Okay, well,
We can
send
make
that out
those
too.
dates, yeah.
Because our next one would typically be.
You think
It's usually July, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I know in the past, we've had some requests for an afternoon meeting. Moving forward, do we still
I don't care.
want to consider that? Because one of the requesters is not here anymore, so.
No preference.
Oh, the person requesting isn't here anymore?
No, he's taken a job out of
Away.
States, I believe. Yeah. Yeah.
What's easier for everyone? Morning? Morning's easier.
And and usually a July meeting is maybe an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
super
I mean, the
good.
rest of the meetings are short.
So I don't want to do it after.
Short term.
Yeah,
No.
I think there was just one.
Yeah, morning for me is better.
Morning.
okay.
Yeah, I think mornings are better.
Morning.
But to the morning
Perfect.
for the next couple meetings anyways. Okay.
Earlier in the week better than later in the week?
Mondays are just not good for me.
I think
Mondays
keep
are not
them on
good.
Wednesdays.
Wednesdays.
Yeah,
off.
Wednesdays, it's always been Wednesdays, so I think to me, Wednesdays are always good.
My only conflict would be transportation.
Well, it depends on what week it is.
Okay.
That's
I'll look
usually
for
the
Wednesdays
last
early
week
morning.
of the month, so
You're always the last week?
I believe, yeah.
Okay. I'll look for maybe the second week of July and see what that kind of looks like. for us.
Yeah, I think the
Not
4th
July
is like
4th.
a.
Yeah.
Fourth is a.
For that reason, yeah.
It'd be the Wednesday after the 4th.
Yes.
You're a 4th of July baby?
That's
not
his favorite.
Best birthday
It's
ever.
gotta be. It's birthday month,
So,
not.
Yeah, right.
Plus, it's really far away
Right.
from Christmas. You get all those
I
good
know,
gifts.
I know, right?
Christmas in July.
Okay, well, I really want to thank everybody for the day and a half time commitment you guys have all made. Certainly appreciated. So with no other discussion, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.